live. Hello, everyone, and welcome to episode 26, if I got that right, of the Talking Movies live stream series. First and foremost, who am I? Well, usually it's Dan hosting, but sadly Dan is not feeling well today, so he's taking a bit of sick leave, I guess, if you want to call it that. So yeah, Dan sadly will not be joining us on this stream this evening. We do, however, hope he might put a comment in the comment section. So yeah, welcome to episode 26. With that having been said, and today it's all about the Terminator, and we are joined by a great special guest. It's sort of been a long time coming. I know, James, a couple of years ago, two of us said we should do a stream together on something Bond related, but that never happened. So I'm happy that this happened. So yeah, welcome to James from JT at the Movies. So James, if you want to talk a little bit about your channel, your movie preferences and stuff like that, I would say the stage is yours, my friend.
Thank you very much, Jeff. Cheers. And hello, Carlos. Hello, everybody at home. Pleasure to be here. Like you say, it really has been a long time coming, this, hasn't it? And yeah, absolutely. Just a pleasure to be here. So if you don't know me, I'm James, JT at the Movies, and I set my YouTube channel up, as a lot of folks did, as something to do through the pandemic. And I'd spent years watching, loads of folks sort of, Big Paulie, Cinema Sickness, The Flick Pick, loads of people sort of that have, really gone on to sort of the dizzy heights of it all on YouTube, and I thought I could do that. And then when, sort of life came to a grinding halt in 2020, I thought, yeah, do you know what? I'm gonna do it. And then it's just kind of sort of gone from there. And I make a couple of videos a month and just keep it really casual. I always like to sort of do me, what have I bought and picked up in the month sort of thing. And then I'll do, reviews or rankings or whatever in the run up to No Time to Die. I went through all the Bond films and sort of did my own little sort of retrospective on those. And I suppose in terms of my film preferences, really, I love my thrillers. I love my action movies, and I love my sort of slasher horror movies. So like your Freddy, Jason, Michael, that sort of stuff, Scream. And I suppose my favourite period is probably 80s and 90s movies. I think that's where I get the most joy out of watching my movies. But I consider myself a film buff. I'll watch out once, and I'd say that's pretty
me. Yeah, great channel.
Wonderful. Yeah, definitely. If you guys are not subscribed to James, definitely go ahead and do so. It is highly recommended. I definitely remember back in the pandemic when he was doing the Bond reviews. That's how I sort of got to know his channel, because obviously I'm a big Bond fan as well. But yeah, there's loads of great stuff on his channel, great movie reviews, stuff like that. So go check it out, folks. So let's go through a few comments before we move to today's subject. So we got Yam Yam here, all things film with Yam Yam. Says, watcher guys, hope you're well. Great seeing JT on. He's a nice lad, definitely. Just like you, Dan, Jeff, and Carlo. Thank you, Yam Yam. We do appreciate that.
Cheers for watching, Yam Yam.
We have Mike, the other retro guy. Evening, gents. Looking forward to this one. Hearing just impersonation once again. Okay, suppose we just get it out of the way straight away. There will be Arnie impressions, yes. And let's start with one right now. Just for you, Mike. Just because you just said there you wanted to hear it. Well, here it is. This is Arnold. This is a T100, a T800, Cyberdyne Systems Model 101. There you go. And then we have Jason85. Hey guys, have you fellas picked up the new 4K? I haven't yet. And you, Carlos, I see you're nodding your head there.
I got it Saturday. I've not even opened it yet.
Okay. Yeah, I was gonna pre-order, but I don't know, the Steelbook is sold out or something. I have to go for the regular edition, but I definitely will be getting it. I have heard good things about the 4K and especially the transfer. So
I'm gonna say I've heard that it's almost like a reference quality transfer.
Yeah, unlike the previous Cameron releases earlier this year, but yeah.
Well.
Even though I didn't mind those transfers, but yeah.
Well, do you know what? I didn't have a problem with them either. I think me and Carlos chatted about this back and forth on one of my comments on or one of our videos. Anyway, we were chatting about it, but I got what people were saying, especially with the True Lies one. There were moments where it looked like they were made out of Play-Doh, but on the whole, I thought they looked fine. They looked better than the DVDs we've had for years. Certainly.
Especially the Abyss. The Abyss looked crisp, absolutely crisp on 4K.
Yeah, the Abyss was the best of the three, and I mean, that's one of
Definitely.
the movies, so I was over the moon that one didn't look crap.
I'll be back, as what Yam Yam says, a little pun. This was before we went live. He just went to go make a cup of ginger tea. And we have Cheekster here. Good evening, gents. Good evening, Cheekster.
Evening.
Hi there, Cheekster.
We have Yam Yam having the hots for Linda Hamilton in Terminator 1. He's saying she's so sexy, beautiful hair in the first film. She reminds me of a young Susie Quattro, especially in the song "She's in Love with You," who was also gorgeous.
Yeah, I could see that.
See
Yeah,
that. Yeah,
with that sort of 80s hairdo. Yeah,
Me and my father-in-law have had this debate a few times, over the years, because he really fancies Linda Hamilton in T2, but that does nothing for me. But in T1, I've got to agree with Yam Yam. She's a bit of all right.
Yeah, she was a bit muscle bound in the second.
I do respect what you went through for T2 to get that body and stuff, but yeah, I do prefer
absolutely,
T1 myself. Yeah, true. Sean Sheridan's here. He says the greatest slasher movie ever made. Yes, it is. Well, that's a good point. We're probably going to get into that later.
We'll bring that up as well. Yeah.
Sarah is the final girl. Terminator is mass killer. Skin covering metal. Well, he saw that as a point there, and has the gift, grit and feel of a horror film. Yeah. I mean, again, we'll get into that later, but yeah. And he says that, and James Cameron even said he was inspired by Halloween in writing the script.
Yeah, so, he was.
Yeah. We have Jim coming up with a quote already. We'll be doing quotes later on in the episode and stream as well. Hey, buddy, you got a dead cat in there or what?
One of my favorites.
Yam Yam agrees that Terminator is a sci-fi slasher. Yeah. And just before we went live, Jim made this comment about your internet, Carlos, even though it is working beautifully now
it's on at this moment.
So, yeah. And we have Andy here. Yeah. Hey, Andy. Says hi to everyone. Hey, Jim. Hey, Savoy. I know his name is Dave. I did find that out. Sean saying Pumping Iron is Jeff's favorite Arnold film. I actually do like Pumping Iron, but I probably wouldn't have it as my favorite Arnie film.
I've never seen it.
Yes, well, it's like a documentary.
It's a documentary, yeah. Pretty famous moments with Arnold. Yeah, it's pretty good. It's decent.
Yeah, no of it. I think it's probably one of the only ones in his filmography I've not seen.
I would say that's this one that Sean mentioned, Sarah Hercules in New York. That's one I haven't seen.
That's atrocious.
Yeah,
it's terrible.
I've heard it's terrible. That's why I'm avoiding it.
There's two versions. There's the dubbed version, and then there's Arnie's version. Arnie's version's not too good.
No.
I don't know what version I've got. I've not watched it for years, but I bought a copy in Poundland, like long before they were doing the DVDs and stuff in there. We're talking probably 10, 15 years ago, and I bought a copy of it. And it literally looks like a bootleg. It's so cheap, but it is an official release. I can't remember whether it's dubbed or not, but yeah, bloody awful.
Yeah, I do know that there's two. I've heard the one. It's like a terrible generic American accent dubbing Arnie. I mean, in that respect, it's better when you hear his voice. But his voice was so, I don't know. He's always had an accent, obviously, but in that film, he really, really had a very thick, strong accent in that one, even more than usual. So, yeah. We got a lot of get well soon, Dan, and best wishes for Dan, which is nice to see. Some love for Pumping Iron. Completely forgot about the Terminator 1 Steelbook. I was what's that say?
Umming and ahhing.
Oh, is that a British thing?
Yeah.
Okay.
Basically, they were kind of thinking about it and sat on the fence.
Okay. He was umming and ahhing about getting it, but then when he decided to, it had sold out. Well, pretty much the same with me.
I did the same thing, and then it sold out, and I had to pay more or less just short of double the price.
Ooh. No, I'm getting the standard one.
Yeah, if I get it, I'll do the same. I not too long since upgraded the DVD to the Blu-ray, so yeah, I'm not keen to go and triple dip.
Do the TX impression of Gareth for your tasties. Well, we're gonna get to the TX. Anyway, good evening, Gareth.
Cheers, Gareth.
Gary Hedgerson says hi. Hi, Gary.
Hi, Gary.
We're gonna get the quotes, Dave. We're gonna get there. We've got a segment for that, but obviously there's some great quotes in all the first two anyway. Jem is saying, I saw Terminator on opening night with low expectations and I was blown away. Now that actually brings us to the first sort of point that we got for the discussion is, when do you guys recall the first time seeing a Terminator film? Or the first experience or first memory of seeing a Terminator film? So we'll bring it over to James. Go ahead, buddy.
I was far too young.
Same.
My dear old dad used to love showing me films that obviously he loved and he'd sort of grown up with in the 80s and early 90s. And Mum used to hate him showing me anything that wasn't, Scooby-Doo or Rugrats or whatever. And I remember she used to go out on a Saturday and he'd always sit me down and we'd put a film on, and that was the first time I watched Last Crusade and Batman Returns and so many other films that strike a sort of a note with me. But I remember we watched T2, and I can't have been more than 8 or 9, and I remember absolutely loving the adrenaline rush of it and the high octane action, because it just doesn't stop, does it, really, from start to finish? Even in the quiet moments there's something going on. But I remember sort of getting really emotional at the end when he's sort of getting lowered into the molten metal sort of thing, and just sort of not understanding why he had to die, and sort of so I think that was probably one of my first sort of film experiences, experiencing sort of like a character death. And even now, watching it as a nearly 33-year-old man, when that scene comes on, it evokes that emotion and that time for me. And like when I watched it last week to revisit them for this stream, I got the lump in my throat when he's. But yeah, that was the first one that I watched, and then the rest. Yeah, I think saw Terminator 3. We saw that in Mallorca when it came out, and the bar that was in the complex that we were staying at had got a dodgy copy of it, and they streamed it in the bar. So we went and watched it in the bar one night, did me and my dad, and then the rest of them I've seen when they've come out on DVD and Blu-ray and whatever else, and backtracked to the first Terminator in my teens probably.
Awesome.
Carlos?
Yeah, I mean, obviously, me being the old dog out the three here, I remember when it came out. Video. I'd seen the first 2 Conan movies, and I wasn't really. I mean, I'd heard of Arnie as obviously he dominated the bodybuilding world. Seen him in various bodybuilding magazines because I was getting into training myself, but when he was coming sort of into an actor, the first 2 Conan movies kind of really didn't show much of him as an actor, the Barbarian. And I thought, well, I don't know, this guy's really got what it takes to become an actor because of his strong accent. But when Terminator came out, the reviews were really, really good. I mean, I would have been 13 when that came out, 84. So that would have been out on video the following year, because it took a year for it to come out on video in the UK. And everybody wanted to see this movie, The Terminator. And I remembered hiring the movie around about Christmas time. And I watched the movie. I was blown away by it. And so much so, as soon as I watched the movie, I put it on literally 10 minutes later, because I was like, wow, what a movie. And Arnie's character kind of disguised his acting abilities, because he virtually doesn't say hardly anything. I mean, his strong Austrian accent kind of blends in with his robotic character. Loved the movie. And obviously the second movie, when that came out, I was all on board. I was old enough to watch that in the cinema. And I think I watched the second, the third one, and Salvation in the cinema. But yeah, great experience watching Terminator on VHS back in the day when it was available. Loved it. And yourself, Jeff?
Awesome. Yeah, as for me, very, very similar to James, I must add. I sort of had flashbacks to my own version of the story as he was telling it. Also way too young. just like James, way too young. And it was also the same movie, T2, for me. That was the first one. My brother, he introduced me to a few films like my dad did, and my mom as well. But my brother as well was a big influence with some of my movie tastes. He introduced me to like Jean-Claude Van Damme, Bloodsport, and Kickboxer and stuff like that. Van Damme was really my brother's hero, sort of. And he also loved T2. And yeah, growing up in sort of the last dying breath of the VHS era, we did record stuff off TV with the VHS recorder. And lo and behold, my brother recorded T2 of TV one night, and we watched it, and I absolutely loved it. Every emotion that was to be felt with that film, I felt. I felt scared by Robert Patrick as a T-1000. I felt emotional at the end, of course. James said it chokes him up. It doesn't just choke me up. I'm not afraid to admit, I started bawling at that ending. Once he said, I know now why you cry, but it is something I can never do. Start the waterworks. Every time I watch the film, start the waterworks with that line for me. And then, of course, when he goes down, I'm not afraid to admit I bawl my eyes out at that film, and it is not getting too far at it. Is one of my favorite action films of all time. I absolutely love that film so much. Watched it countless of times over the years. However, going back to T1 after that, it is weird when you go from T2 to T1. Obviously, Arnold is the villain this time. You loved him, you were rooting for him in T2. Now he's the villain. And again, going back to the horror film aspect discussion that we had there, and that's going on in the comments. I was genuinely scared by Arnold in T1, especially that part where his eyebrows are burned out. I think I talked about this in different streams when the eyebrows are burned out and he's sort of in that squad car, in that police car, looking around, scanning. I don't know, it just looks so freaking creepy to me. It's, yeah, still to this day, I'm like, it looks weird. I think it's the eyebrows. It does something to the face, but, T1, it's of course a great film. No doubt about that. I get why people do put it over T2 and stuff, but it's just a groundbreaking film. And just to segue off to a little other discussion point, because you mentioned the Conan films, Carlos. Do you think it's a Terminator that made Arnold a star, or do you think it was the Conan films before and that helped in a big way, or were the Conan films the ones that made him a star, and then T1 sort of, I don't know, just ejected him into the stratosphere? So. What do you think, James?
I think that, to be fair, the Conan films probably kind of put him somewhere like where John Cena and Dave Bautista and The Rock were when they started out. Sort of like the sort of muscles for hire, sort of no real acting credibility at the moment, sort of thing. But they can play the beefy action guy or whatever. I think that's what those films did for him. But I think it's Terminator, and I think Carlos, you hit the nail on the head. I think it was you that said it, wasn't it? That because he doesn't speak too much in it, he's got the ability to do more with it, and let his acting speak for himself. And the fact that he's playing a robot and that he's speaking at the time in broken English, it lends itself to the performance. So yeah, I think Terminator is what put him on the map.
Yeah.
Carlos?
Yeah, I think what James says. Yeah, I think those first two movies, he's right. He's mainly used in those movies. He's like muscles for hire because he was in like pretty close to like bodybuilding contest shape. Me being a bodybuilder myself, so he they were kind of very muscle bound characters. But Terminator, obviously, he's wearing the jacket, but he's still got that presence of being fairly in decent shape. Obviously that scene where he's looking above LA, he's still sort of 240 pounds. Obviously in the second movie, he's around about 220. He's lost a considerable size of mass. But I was a bit dubious about him sort of challenging some of these top action stars like Stallone, because Stallone was a not bad actor. At the time he could act, depending on the roles. Obviously, Arnie, with his movies and sort of characters, his acting got a lot better. His English, a lot better as well. His accent wasn't so strong as we saw in his career. But Terminator, I think it's got to be the movie that made him a worldwide star, because it's kind of like, I mean, the Conan movies were popular, but they didn't make huge masses amount of money at the box office. But it was popular.
Accessible. Sorry to cut you off.
Yeah. I mean, I think Terminator, just with it being sort of more of an American production than James Cameron, and it was a big hit in the States. That kind of really put him on the map for other sort of movie roles, and working with James Cameron as well. And then obviously James Cameron would use him in other movies like True Lies. I think Terminator was definitely the movie that gave him that worldwide recognition as a movie action tough guy.
Yeah, I agree completely.
Yeah, I would second that. I mean, the Conan films definitely helped to sort of establish him as a name already. I think it's kind of similar to what James said. It's sort of in the same vein of like a Batista or John Cena,
Yeah.
like these WWE stars. Sort of makes them known. It sort of puts them out there. Not necessarily the career defining film, but I mean, I love Conan the Barbarian. I love the first one. The Destroyer.
Me too.
I mean, the Destroyer has its moments. It's a fun, whimsical sort of Conan version. It's not overly serious like the first one. I get why people sort of enjoy that one. I do enjoy it to an extent again, but yeah, it's definitely the Terminator that definitely made him a household name. Which, yeah, let's talk about T1. I mean, we've already been sort of discussing it, but here it is, the original classic poster. So yeah, Terminator 1, guys. What you guys think overall of the film? Overall opinions on the film? James, go ahead.
I love this one. I think it's really always interesting to me, sort of, that Cameron would go on to make Aliens after this, because I find the comparison of this film and T2 and then Alien and Aliens, even though he had nothing to do with Alien, to be sort of really sort of quite eerily similar. And I like that it's sort of, it feels like a slow burn, but it's not, if that makes sense. Like, it feels like it's building and it's building, but it's taking its time to get there. But then before you know it, you're in the factory at the end, and you're terminated, fucker, and away you go. And I absolutely I adore that ending as well, where she drives off into the desert and sort of gets the photograph taken and everything. I just think it's great. My only real critique with it, and I don't know whether it's something you lads would agree with or not, is maybe the chemistry, the romance with Michael Biehn feels a little forced.
Yeah.
Interesting.
I mean, yeah. Don't get me wrong, that they have a great chemistry, that they work really well together on the screen. But it's just that sort of, when she's dictating to the little tape recorder at the end, and I loved your father so very much, and it's, did you? I don't know. It's such a little thing, but it always just takes me out of that one moment, just to, So I suppose maybe she's got to romanticize it for the kid to make it worthwhile him going back. Sort of thing,
Yeah, you're right there.
But no, I love it. I love Arnie in it. I think Linda Hamilton's superb in it. I think she plays like innocent and naive and vulnerable so incredibly well. And obviously, I know that they would never know that there was going to be a sequel at that point, especially with it been like a decade later or whatever it was. But like just the transformation from that one to the second one, which I know we'll talk about in a bit, sort of thing. It just shows you what acting chops she's got.
Absolutely, yeah. Carlos?
Yeah, I mean, Terminator. I mean, it's a special movie for me. I mean, as soon as I watched it, I loved it. It was an instant classic for me. I think one of the reasons why I like it so much, I mean, Arnie as the bad guy for me is an absolute masterstroke. I know originally, like we all know, he was going to be playing Reese. So when Arnie kind of got more interested in wanting to play the bad guy, It just fits. I think it just fits him to play the bad guy because he's such a hulking beast of a man. 240 pounds, and he just looks really. He just looks really evil. I mean, I would put him up there with a Michael Myers or Jason Voorhees. Who would you rather sort of not want to be chased down the street with? I mean, Arnie just won't. As the cyborg assassin, for me, he's kind of my favourite Terminator. The cyborg assassin. I just love that role of him. It just fits the bill. Obviously, his character flip flops in T2. Which originally he was going to be the hero, but also I also like the fact that there's so many different genres in this movie. I mean, one guy said in the comment, there is slasher elements in this. It's time travel, it's sci-fi, it's action, it's a thriller. I like the dark look of the movie. So with so many sort of genres sort of slotted into one movie, I mean, I'm not going to argue if somebody says it's a sci-fi movie or it's an action movie or a horror movie even.
It's all of the above, isn't it?
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's how
It's
you
a
look at
blend
the
of all of
movie.
it. Yeah.
Yeah, so that's kind of some of the reasons why I love the movie so much and why I think it's such an instant classic that went on to sort of build a franchise. And you, Jeff?
Yeah, which nobody was expecting because it was a low budget film, sort of considered a B movie, sort of a drive-in movie for the States. Yeah, and it turned out to be a massive, massive hit. Here myself, I mean, this first one, I absolutely love it. Everything about it. Arnie as the cyborg villain, like to your point, Carlos, is absolutely a stroke of genius. You totally buy it that this guy is a robot, that this guy will not stop ever until Sarah Connor is dead. He just played it so well. And again, he has limited dialogue. But what he says, it's memorable. Even when he's in the gun shop and he's just saying the brands of the guns, like the Uzi 9mm and stuff like that, the phase plasma rifle in the 40-watt range and stuff like that. Which Sean did mention here in the comments. We're doing quotes in the comments there, but everything about this film, the soundtrack as well. It's just so beautifully 80s. The tech noir scene is fantastic. Even the disco songs in there, I love those songs. Linda Hamilton is absolutely amazing as Sarah Connor. Obviously, the transformation from 1 to 2 is just wow. It's mind blowing. Michael Biehn as Kyle Reese, I think he does a great job as well. Really selling that sort of soldier who's seen a lot, who has sort of a little bit of PTSD and stuff, and also of course the love story. I think it's a beautiful love story in there. It's crazy because you go into it thinking it's an action film, but at the core of it, I guess there is this love story going on as well. So yeah, it's a mesh of a few genres. I can definitely also see the slasher and horror comparisons. I mean, I sort of always looked at it as a bit of a horror film, a bit of a slasher film. I can definitely see why people put it in there. I can also see why people say it's not, but and that's what's so beautiful. We all have our own opinions, of course. But no, T1 masterpiece. I love it. However, everything would get bigger and better with the sequel, which came out. I've got to do some quick head math, like 8 years later, something like that. If I got that right?
91, yeah, 91,
yeah.
Yeah. So with, of course, Terminator 2. Wait, let me put that comment away. You can see the poster, Terminator 2, Judgment Day, T2. So yeah, guys, opinions and overall thoughts on T2, Judgment Day, where Arnie goes from the villain to the hero. Over you, James.
Well, I kind of covered it really, didn't I, when I was talking about sort of my overall sort of introduction to the franchise. But guys, I love it. I absolutely love it. It is the perfect sequel, isn't it? It just takes everything that was great about the first adventure and builds on it. And I mean, I think you'll probably have a similar experience, Jeff, sort of going from 2 and then back to 1. It does the world building stuff really well, doesn't it? Sort of like it doesn't just assume that the audience saw the first film, but it also doesn't make you feel, like you're daft or waste a load of time sort of setting everything up. And I think the introduction of John Connor is a stroke of genius, because I mean, normally in an action film, introducing a child as the lead, it can be a disaster, can't it? And I think more often than not it is. But there's just something about Edward Furlong's performance. He's just obnoxious enough. He's just naive enough. He's just everything in the right quantities that he needs to be, for you to sort of see, right, yeah, this guy could grow into this great leader, but actually he's still got a lot to learn. And he's kind of almost the audience surrogate of the film, isn't he? Because he's the character you're looking at the story through the eyes of. And I think he's great. As I mentioned with the T1 bit, the transformation of Linda Hamilton in this one is just incredible, and it just goes to show how underrated she really is as an actress, because you can still see that Sarah Connor that we all know and love from the Terminator in there, but you see that sort of 10 years of, however long it's been in the story, 11 years, and John's meant to be, is he meant to be 11 or 12? Can't remember.
Think so, yeah.
But there's that, you can sort of see that actual evolution of the character, and then just even though we know that Arnie's the good guy sort of thing, you don't necessarily know that straight away, do you? And so when he sort of breaks into the jail to get her out, and and then it's the whole sort of the callback to the original, come with me if you want to live, and that's the only time I'm going to do it. You can have them for rent.
That was pretty good.
You've got to get one in. But when you do that, and then it's like, right, okay, you realise that, yeah, actually he is the good guy sort of thing, and he's not been playing John for the long con. Or I absolutely love it, and it's a road movie. They're always on the go, and it's just brilliant. I really love as well. I must talk about him now, otherwise I'll forget. But I love the sleazy psychiatrist played by Ed Bone, the Dr. Silverman.
Dr. Silverman, yeah.
Yeah. Absolutely love that character. And I remember me and Laura sat and watched them last week, and I'd sort of forgotten that he sees Robert Patrick sort of morph through the cell door.
Yeah,
I was
his reaction.
And he drops a bit of the pen, yeah.
It was brilliant. And then I just remember saying to Laura before that scene came on, it's such a shame that the Doctor never sees and never gets proven wrong. And I'd forgotten that scene. So watching that, and then it came on, I was like, oh, he did. And then we'll talk about it in T3, but the little cameo in T3 where he's talking with Claire Danes, it's just the perfect payoff. And I almost wish he was still alive to have done the same in Dark Fate. I think that would have been hilarious. But
yeah.
But yeah, I absolutely love it. Love the whole getting Miles Dyson on board at the end, and his sacrifice, and just that whole third act is just, like I say, I think objectively it's the greatest sequel that's ever been made, at least in modern cinema.
Yeah, I mean, James brought a good point up there. I got to agree with that. I mean, some people with Alien and Aliens, it's pretty neck and neck. But this one, in what Terminator 2 does, it builds on from the first one. Not only is it one of the greatest sequels, it's probably one of the greatest action movies ever made as well. And revisiting the movies again, I mean, I had a great fun time experience with my nephews who had never seen the Terminator movies, and they enjoyed the first one, and obviously the second one came on, I didn't tell them that Arnie's playing the good guy. So when it came to that scene where they have the meet in the shopping centre in the hallway, my two nephews looked at me and said, "Oh, what's going on here? Oh, he's the good guy." And wow, I mean, it was just great to kind of relive that moment, because that's the moment that I had when I watched it in the cinema. I was kind of a little bit slightly deflated, because I did love the Cyborg Assassin version more than Arnie as the hero version. But I kind of get it that James Cameron wanted to switch it around a bit rather than just make a total rehash again.
I'd
But yeah.
always heard that it was Arnie that stipulated he wouldn't come back unless he played the hero. But I don't know whether that's just like an urban legend.
Could be, yeah.
I know he wanted, obviously, James Cameron on board. He, you know, and I think Arnie kept pushing for a sequel because James Cameron actually thought after the first one it was done and dusted. So Arnie kept pushing for it, and obviously with the budget around it, people were pushing for the movie, and you know, Arnie wanted James Cameron on board. So much so, even on the third one, even though James Cameron didn't do that one, Arnie was almost not going to do the third one because you know he worked so well with James Cameron.
And I can imagine there was probably a hesitancy from any studio around getting James Cameron to do that, though, because I mean, The Abyss, as much as I love it, was a commercial flop, wasn't it? And he went massively over budget and over everything with it, and then ended up doing like the special editions and stuff as well. So I can imagine studios sort of thinking, hang on, this guy wants to make a sequel and he's just, you know, near enough wasted all this money, I suppose, making this. You know, like I said, one of my favorite movies is The Abyss, but you know, from a studio's perspective, sort of wasted all this money. It's kind of a wonder it got made, really, isn't it?
Yeah. Especially with the budget, because T2 at that moment was, at that point in time, was the most expensive film ever made. And then, of course, James Cameron would top that with True Lies. He would top that again with Titanic, and then he just keeps topping that. And Avatar, of course, But yeah, no, just a quick segue for me on T2. I mean, obviously, we did touch upon it in our introduction, but I freaking love everything about this film. It's a masterpiece. It's a full blown 10 out of 10 film for me. And speaking of special edition, I think James, you just mentioned that Cameron was doing special editions. I'm only accustomed to the T2 extended cut, which has the scene where he smiles and stuff. That's the only version. That's the first version I saw. That's the version I always saw growing up. And then when I saw it on re-release in cinema, it was the theatrical one. I was like, there's something off about this version. So I'm very so much accustomed to the extended cut of the film. Yeah,
I'm exactly the same. I imagine when I watched it with Dad all those years ago, we watched it on on ITV, which is one of the TV channels over here. And so I can only imagine it was the theatrical cut or an edit thereof. But since I've had the DVD, I've always watched the extended cut as well, with the the bit where they do the bit of surgery and his chip on and off, and the Michael Biehn dream sequence and stuff like that.
Sequence,
that adds to it. That adds to the lore and connects it.
Absolutely.
To that one. So I always prefer the extended version as well. That's the only version I'd go to watch too.
Yeah, and even on the Blu-ray that I have, it has three versions. That's the theatrical one, the extended one, and the extended one with the alternate ending as well.
I've never watched
this Blu-ray for people that are interested. German Blu-ray, yeah.
I've got the UK version of that one. I've seen the alternate ending as a clip, but I've never watched the version with the alternate ending. It's the one where she's the old lady, isn't it?
Yeah, it sort of really puts everything to a close, because after that, there truly cannot be a Terminator 3, which obviously they didn't want because, well, money. But
I'm glad you guys actually said that, because I was actually going to ask, which version did you prefer, the director's cut or the theatrical version? Guys, in the comments, put your
good to know.
Put your preference.
Speaking of comments, let's go back to the comments. Yeah.
Where do you come down on it, Carlos? Do you prefer the director's cut as well?
Always the director's cut. How the director wanted the movie for me. I mean, that Michael Biehn Reese scene, I think that's an important scene.
You know what's great about that scene? He hasn't aged a day since the first term. He looks exactly the same in that scene. He hasn't aged. It's wonderful. It's amazing. Do want to say for some reason I lost a few of the comments that were very, very early on. The earliest comment I can put on is this one. I do want to say and acknowledge Aaron, Screen Stars, and Leo, Geek Legion of Doom, because they said hi before and those comments have disappeared. So hi,
hi
Leo,
Aaron.
and hi Aaron. And also Bob McCall. I think he said hi before. I do see a comment on here, but now the comments jumped again. Anyway, we do have Yam Yam again saying, hope you get well done. Wait a minute. Now the comments have jumped. Oh, bear with me, guys. The comments are just jumping all over the place. Ah,
We've
here we
gone back
go.
in time, Jeff, to save
Yeah.
this stream from.
This is where
Termination.
Aaron and Leo came in. Now we got the comments back. There we go. Let's see. We got Savoy. They saying, I remember seeing an interesting video saying that the time the original Terminator movie happened, it was the third time a Terminator got sent back. Makes sense when I watched the YouTube video. I haven't seen that one, so that would be interesting to look up. But yeah, there is that interesting thing with the continuous time loop, isn't there, with the Terminator film? So Sean is saying I saw Terminator 2 first on VHS when I was about 6. I didn't see the first one until I was about 9. Yeah, I guess it was a year or two later after I saw the second one that I went back to the first one for me. But yeah. And Jim is saying that great, wonderful quote by Arnold there at the end of T2. I know now why you cry. Yeah. Yeah, here's where Bob McCall came in. Good evening, Bob. The equalizer in the house. Mike is saying I had the VHS of the first one that had no sound. Oh, that's terrible. So I recorded it from BBC Two, where it was shown for the first time uncut and in widescreen. It was bloody brilliant, and I was about 9 or 10. So yeah, everybody it seems was a bit young for this film. It's probably the age I was. So Sean is saying women cry at Titanic, men cry at T2. Well, I definitely do.
That's I like that. I like that. That's a great comment. That.
Yeah. Terminator has a great soundtrack, especially the techno club music, and hope Dan gets well soon, is what Jason says. Yeah, definitely. And yeah, the soundtrack there is great. Absolutely. Yam Yam is saying first Terminator flick I saw was also T2 when he was roughly 8 years old, and he loved it. The first time I saw Terminator he only saw the first Terminator very, very recently, 5 years ago. And he does like it. He says it's really good. It definitely is. Leo was saying, my mom saw it at the cinema. I would have been 10 or 11, and it sounded great when she told me about it. I saw it when it came out on VHS, first of all, whenever that came out. Yeah, that must have been, I guess, 85 somewhere when it came out on VHS. Yeah, the release was 84. Probably in 85 was the VHS release. Yeah, Bob McCall in the house. Yam Yam is saying I've only seen 1, 2, and 3, but I find Terminator 3 very, very underrated. The baddie, the pretty blonde wench, I think she played the role awesome. Also, I think China or Sue Price would have also been a good choice. We are going to get to that. We are going to bring that up about the TX and Terminator 3. Something I only thought about Terminator recently is why is that garbage truck driver at the start still working at like 1 a.m.? That's garbage day. Garbage got to be brought in.
Maybe he fell asleep on the job. I don't know.
That could be. Working late, yeah. Sean is saying that his brother also introduced him to JCVD and John Carpenter as well, so that's awesome. Can't watch Short Circuit 2 without crying. That's what Dave says. I actually haven't seen that film, so might have to give that a look-see.
I've not seen it either.
And we have John here, John the Voice, Mondo Chalovic movies.
Hi there, John.
Just popping in and say have a great stream. I remember him and his mate walked past the cinema one night and saw this playing. No one talked about it. You can imagine how stunned that they were when seeing it. Yeah, I definitely can. Yeah.
Cheers, John.
Yeah, thanks for tuning in, John. Jim's movie channel. Jim is saying Terminator was definitely the movie that made Arnold star. Yeah, absolutely. We have DKARD. Hello, greetings from the Canary Islands, Spain. And he says he loves the Terminator films. That's his favorite. Yeah, awesome. Thanks for joining us. Muchas gracias, I think is how you say that in Spanish.
Not bad, not bad.
Jim's movie channel. Jim is also saying the original Conan was a small hit. The Destroyer was a flop. I think the Destroyer made money a little bit, didn't it? But yeah. Terminator had very small expectations and became a huge hit. Yeah, it definitely did. Other robot, a cybernetic organism. Yeah, you're damn right there. And DCAR D is also saying a pleasure to discover my channel. So he's watching this on my channel. Thank you very much. Do really, really appreciate that. Jim is saying originally James Cameron wanted Lance Henriksen. Yes, Lance Henriksen was one of the original ones who did like concept art of how he looked like as a cyborg. I think O.J. Simpson was a candidate, but he was deemed not enough of a killer. Yeah. Funny how time changes stuff.
Yeah, Arnie became the good guy and OJ not so much.
I've got many movies with OJ as the Terminator anyway.
Yeah,
It's
that's
amazing
true.
what you can do with green screen in a prison cell these days.
Yeah.
Yeah, saying with films these days that unfortunately get remade after remake, get remake after remake. Do you think in say 20 years time or so the Terminator will get a remake? I wouldn't want it, but could you see it? I mean, they're definitely going to try to do something with it, but yeah, because it's still a bit of a cash cow the series. But
I was just going to say, there's still money to be made in it, isn't there? I sincerely hope they leave it alone. I'm sick of just legacy sequels in general now.
Yeah.
I will say they did quasi remake something of the first film with Terminator Genesis, but we're gonna get there.
Yeah, talk about that soon enough.
Yeah. The Conan films kickstarted the sword and sorcery craze in the 80s. Yeah, and for my money, they're the best ones. Still the best sword and sorcery films. Alucard here. Have you seen Lady Terminator? I have not. That must be some B movie, I'm guessing, but I haven't seen it.
I haven't seen it, but I'm pretty sure that like Indicator or one of the, the sort of the boutique labels has put it out. And I
it rings a bell. I've heard of it, but
I think
I
it's
haven't
like a
seen
European film. From I could be
probably be
out of my ass, but I'm sure that it's like a European sort of send up, but not done comically, sort of.
Sounds like an Italian ripoff.
Yeah, that's exactly what
I think that's it. Yeah, because they did a lot of rip-offs. If something was popular, they would do a version of it. Yeah, that's true. Jamie 1985 is here. He's saying or she, that could be Jamie as a she, that could be Jamie as a he. So the scene in the bathroom with the eyeball is best viewed in standard definition rather than 4K. Well, yeah, that is the one scene in the first Terminator that sort of ages it a bit for me.
Yeah,
and performing a surgery in the eye.
I know.
That's the one. The rest of the film, the rest of the effects look fantastic still, but that one bit is always just sort of pulls you out of it a bit for me.
I've never been able to work out with that scene. Is it a load of prosthetics on Arnold's face, or is it a puppet?
I think it's a rubber puppet version of Arnold. Yeah. Which it doesn't really look that great anymore these days. But I love dogs anyway. That's what Dave says. But the fact that dogs can spot Terminators has always been one of my favorite elements. Yeah, I do. That's a pretty great lore element, definitely.
Yeah. What's the dog's name? Max. Hey, Mom.
Hey, what's wrong with Wolfie? Yeah.
Your foster parents are dead.
There you go. You got another one in. One thing that nobody ever mentions about the Terminator is throughout the entire film, Kyle is wearing a homeless man's trousers, which is very true, and they look very dirty.
I can't remember what it was. I saw a YouTube video where it was absolutely just ripping the piss out of the Terminator, and it was sort of, this is really crass, and I'm really sorry, but it was sort of going on to the scene where obviously they have sex, and it's sort of, I'm not going to do this justice, but it sort of made mention of the fact of how could Linda Hamilton be even remotely attracted to him when he must stink a piss.
Yeah.
But
because even when they show the pants, when you can see his leg, they definitely look far from clean. That's for sure. So
it was laundry day for that homeless guy.
Wash day tomorrow, nothing clean, right? Imagine the state of them trousers. I think that's one of your nephews, isn't it, Carlos? Polo Man Gaming.
Yeah, that's my nephew Paolo chipping in.
Just finished watching Terminator Salvations. What are your thoughts? Well, we are gonna get there.
We will indeed, mate.
We have Arnold here. Hey, Arnold Schwarzenegger. Come with me if you want to live. The only thing I don't like is the slow motion scenes, like when he shoots the first Sarah Connor. The first assassination. Well, I can see that. You could say it's maybe unnecessary just to drag out the pacing or just to drag out the film time. But I mean, I like it. Especially in the tech noir. That's perfect use of slow motion in the tech noir scene. One negative of some of the effects look but the budget was low enough so I can forgive it. The budget for Terminator was $6 million. For T2 was $100 million. Yeah, that's a big jump in budget.
Big difference.
For sure.
Yeah. It really is, isn't it? But I mean, you can see all that money on the screen though, because I mean, was it 32 years later and 33
they still hold
later,
up.
It holds up, doesn't it?
Yeah.
And Dave is saying one of his favorite memories is going on action all-nighter at the local cinema, and the last film was the 1984 Terminator film. It started at 6 a.m. Well, that's way too early, but yeah, that's great. I wouldn't mind going to an all-nighter, but yeah.
Me and a mate tried doing that 24-hour movie marathon challenge a few years ago that went round.
Oh, did you? Yeah.
We made it 19 hours in and both cracked out. Yeah, so it's just like almost there, but it's hard work, man. Can't do all-nighters anymore.
Yeah.
Could when I was a kid all the time. But...
Shocking Dark is the real Terminator 2. Has any of you seen Shocking Dark? Doesn't ring a bell.
No, I've never heard of that, to be fair.
I'll have to look that up.
Yeah, absolutely.
And so we'll do this comment, and there's a lot of T2 comments coming up, but we're going to move on to T3 in just a bit. The only bits of Terminator I don't like are the stop motion parts. Well, actually, I do enjoy the stop motion. They don't really pull me out of it.
Got the charm, haven't they?
Yeah.
I think I don't mind them. They're more noticeable on the Blu-ray, so I can imagine on the 4K they're probably even more noticeable still. But I'm really glad that Cameron's not gone back and done a George Lucas and done a himself with what he's done with the other transfers that we talked about and tampered with it, you know.
Yeah, again, going back to that 4K, from the sounds of it, Cameron wasn't really... I mean, Cameron was involved, but he didn't do the same job on that. It's weird, yeah. He didn't do the same job on that one, but yeah.
It's baffling, though, isn't it, really? I mean, I suppose with True Lies and Abyss never having been officially on HD, that's probably why he felt like he had to be involved. But it baffles you, doesn't it, that he's got them three in the pipeline and he wouldn't get involved for the fourth. But I suppose folks seem to be grateful maybe he hasn't.
Yeah, definitely. So you got a few T2 comments. Andy makes Star Wars. Hey, Andy. T2 for me is overrated, is what he says. Too many jokes and cheese. Felt the same back in 91. Hasn't changed. And his opinion hasn't changed. He says the first one is easily the best. A lot of people do feel that, and obviously that's okay. So, yeah. And then on the flip side, we have Sean saying T2 is the best sequel ever made. It takes the first one and builds on it perfectly, no negatives, and that ending always makes me sad. I agree.
I've got a T2 memory. I remember it's something that I wish that they do in movies at the cinema. You know, going to see a movie in a cinema. I can recall watching the T2 kind of teaser trailer. And
yeah, I know the one you mean.
For me, I don't know about you guys. That movie trailers, cinema, they overdo it. They show 2 to 3 minutes, and I always say less is best. But I can recall watching the T2 teaser trailer, which is probably about 20 seconds of
it's just him being assembled, isn't it?
Built,
yeah.
And everybody, I cannot remember the movie I was watching because I was just so fixated in what I'd just seen, and then coming out of that movie, whatever it was, I was talking about Terminator 2. That's how much the build up of T2 had in the sequel, because there was millions of dollars that was like on the build up and the budget, all the memorabilia, T-shirts, the soundtrack behind it, and that's something special when you see a small trailer not giving anything away. And I just kind of that experience. I just remembered that that little small 30 seconds of everybody in the cinema was actually going, wow, they were cheering, and I've never seen that for a trailer. I thought that's awesome.
Yeah, that's how you do a trailer, unlike Terminator Genesis. But again, we are going to get there.
Yeah. Well, they showed too much, didn't they? They gave spoiler alert on that. They overdid it.
That trailer was appalling, wasn't it? But
I'm just glad I didn't watch that trailer before I went to see the film. I'm glad I didn't watch it, but
yeah. I miss movie trailer voice.
I miss that guy.
You don't get that anymore. Yeah. Are you ready? Yeah.
Exactly. So we do have your nephew saying that T2 is an amazing sequel here, Carlos. He says it's a 10 out of 10 film. One
He's
more
not wrong.
T2 comments. He's not wrong. And one more
I
T2
enjoyed it.
comment before we go to T3. It's by Mike. He says T2 was a brilliant sequel. The twist of having the original killer cyborg as the hero was a masterstroke. Robert Patrick was perfectly cast as a T1000, as he really did look menacing. Yes, again, 100% agree. Robert Patrick was amazing as the T1000. So yeah, now we go to like 11 or 12 years later again,
Can you?
and 2003. Go ahead, Carlos.
No, go on. Sorry.
Oh, I was gonna say, I think you're lagging a bit again with the internet thing. But we're gonna wait. I think it's gonna work out. Anyway, we go to 2003 for Terminator 3: Rise of the Machines, which has its fans. It also has its haters, and pretty much no one in between. It seems to be either you love it or hate it. So T3 this time with a female villain, Christina or Christina, whatever I don't know the correct way to pronounce it, but Loken as a TX, the first female. Christiana, is that? Yeah, okay. The first sort of female villain in this series. Yeah, that was a different idea. They tried to do something different with this one. What do you guys think of T3, Terminator 3, Rise of the Machines, James?
So I'd not watched this film for many, many years until last week. And I don't know whether it was the excitement of doing this and sort of like nostalgia of watching the whole franchise sort of in series, but I had a really good time with it. And it was the only film of the series I didn't have on Blu-ray, so I actually bought the Blu-ray for this so I could watch all 6 of them in high def, and I didn't mind it. I kind of let it wash over me and just sort of go with it. But like I said, sort of at the start of the night, I remember when we went and watched this at the bar in the holiday complex, and I remember sort of even at that point feeling disappointed that it didn't have the same feel, the same vibe, just the same anything that the first, the first two had. I think that the guy playing, I've forgotten his name, it's Nick something, isn't it?
Nick Stahl, I think.
Nick Stahl.
Playing John Connor. I think he's terribly miscast. And I really don't like the whole, woe is me, licking my wounds, sort of transient, sort of drifter type carry on. And I don't buy the transformation, sort of, so to speak, at the end of the movie when they get to the base and it's the hi, I'm John Connor and I'm in charge. Sort of don't buy it at all. I think that there's zero chemistry between him and Claire Danes as well.
I agree.
And I think Arnold is in that weird sort of phase in his career where obviously he's just about to become the governor, or he might have even just started office there. And I mean, he's still in great shape, but he's out of shape for Arnold. And it's kind of like got Diamonds Are Forever syndrome about it, where like he's there because they've obviously dropped a huge sack of cash on his doorstep. But like he just feels like he's phoning it in. But yeah, I didn't hate it this time I watched it, but yeah, I don't know. There's pockets of brilliance in it, like the end scene with them getting to the bunker and that. The bunker itself is incredibly cool.
Yeah.
And I like the idea of the Lady Terminator as well, because I really like that. It leads on from the Robert Patrick thing, that the Terminator could be anyone, and if it's going to be somebody that's just meant to blend into society, somebody like Arnold in the first one is the sort of person you'd probably take a second look at. But Bob Patrick playing the police officer, and again Christiana, forget her surname, sorry, but playing the TX, they are the sort of people where you'd sort of they would blend in more. But yeah, I don't know, just swing and a miss, I guess.
Fair enough.
That's
Yeah.
where I'm at.
Carlos?
I'm in the group of actually liking Terminator 3. I mean, I know it's a big drop in class from the two previous movies, but I just take it as a real good sort of good action movie. I mean, it is a bit of more. It is kind of a rehash without sort of really stretching it in storyline. I think the car chase scenes, you know, with the great big in the streets knocking down the buildings, I think that's some absolutely cracking action scenes in there. But I kind of get what James is saying. I mean, obviously James Cameron's not on board. I mean, I know Arnie was pushing for James Cameron to kind of come back and do the third movie. Obviously, we haven't got Linda Hamilton. So that's kind of a big sort of drop. And even Edward Furlong, I mean, obviously he had his, you know, his personal problems at that time. I mean, when you look at his performance in the second one, you would have hoped, you know, you got a young actor there that you could carry him through the series. I think if he'd been in the third movie, it definitely would have had some weight on it. I mean, the movie made money, but
yeah, it was still a hit. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, it was still a hit. I mean, Arnie got, I think he got at least 20 odd million for returning to do Terminator 3. But I think where it does lack is the female cyborg assassin, which I like the idea. I just look at her that, you know, Christiana as too good looking. And would have preferred, I mean, they were actually going to go with the idea of the WWF female wrestler, China,
I was going to say. Yeah.
Joni Laurie, whatever her name was. I mean, she was hot in the WWF or WWE, what you want to call it, in the late 90s. And, you know, one-on-one, I think that would have really quite sort of head-to-head battle between her and Arnie, and obviously quite marketable because of what she was doing in sports entertainment. I think that would have added something to it. But yeah, I just kind of felt it was a bit of a missed opportunity. I mean, I did like the ending where, you know, they actually got duped. It was just kind of like a place to keep them safe, which I kind of like that ending. And it's kind of like a closure for the three movies. Obviously, it certainly wasn't. But yeah, I mean, I'm on board to actually say that I actually do really like Terminator 3. You know, it's one that I watched at the cinema, and it's one that I would sort of. It's one of the four movies that I would watch. You know, I would revisit quite easily.
Okay, yeah, so yeah, for me, I've kind of been all over the place with this film. Every time I watch it, you know, there's times where I watch it, I'm like, I hate it, I don't really like it, and there's times where I think it's pretty great, pretty good, actually. Let's put it that way. I don't want to go to great. I think great might be stretching it, but no, I mean, I've sort of been, you know, on both sides, like where I dislike it and unlike it, but. I think as an action film, it's good. It's good as an action film, but not necessarily as a Terminator film. I do agree with James. I think that Arnold, it feels off his performance as a Terminator. He doesn't really act that robotically in this one for me. He sort of raises his voice a bit, and T2 he raised his voice towards the end when he said like "Go now" and stuff like that. But then, you know, he had the chip reprogram. He was learning human stuff, but this one of his very first scenes, he's like, "Go, run!" It's like you're already raising your voice. You're already sort of being more human than usual. It feels weird, his performance in this one for me. When it comes to female assassin, as female assassin cyborg, I do like her. I do like again Christina Loken as the TX. I think she is definitely it works in the sense of like you would never look at her and say it's a robot. You would never look at her and say that that's someone that's going to hunt you down in your sleep and stuff. And I think it works brilliantly there, especially because she's sort of very striking looking, very I guess pretty beautiful, whatever you want to call it. you wouldn't think she's necessarily an assassin. So no, again, overall, I do like it. It probably is one of the better sequels after T2, but again, that's not saying much considering the quality of all of the sequels.
We'll get there.
Beyond T2, but we're gonna get there. Overall, I think it's a solid action film. I think it's a solid action film, but just not a good or great Terminator film, if that makes sense. So, yeah, Carlos.
I think some of the points, the comedic moments in the movie didn't really sit well with a lot of fans. It did
Talk
with
to
me,
the
I mean,
end. Yeah.
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 Oh, honey, wait your turn.
Yeah, I mean, to be honest, I didn't mind that scene. I mean, the glasses. I mean, he puts them on and obviously crushes them. So I haven't got a problem with that. I think for me,
I would have loved it if he'd have worn them for the whole film and just played it straight as anything.
That would have been, yeah.
It was that they really did tone the violence down. I mean, quite a few of the kills with the female Terminator is kind of off camera. You don't really see it.
Yeah.
Which you would have seen that in the first two movies. But obviously, they went for a kind of like a 12 rating in Terminator 3, as well as they did with a few of the other movies. So, I mean, I much prefer the more violent tone to it, rather than it trying to sort of rely on the 12 rating and get the kids in to watch it, sort of thing. That's just my opinion. I mean, you know, that might have probably been one of the elements why people didn't like it, because of the comedic moments in it.
Yeah, that could definitely be a factor. But yeah, regardless, again, like we said, it was still a hit. It still made money. I guess part of it is because the first two were so successful and people, loved the first two, and I guess it just drove them into the cinema when it was released.
I think it would have been better received if it was the first film in the franchise. You know, if it was just one of Arnie's sort of late 90s, early 2000s, you know, in the same vein as Sixth Day, End of Days, Eraser, in that run of films, it'd have just been the first, film.
Yeah.
Thing. I think it'd probably be remembered more fondly.
Yeah.
That's interesting. Yeah, it could be. But yeah, it would be a few years after that we got the next Terminator, which is another one that is loved or hated. 2008's Terminator Salvation. This time, no Arnie, none of the original cast members for that matter. Although there's a little voice cameo by Linda Hamilton in it, but no physical appearances from any of the original cast members. No involvement from James Cameron or anyone like that. And I don't even think Stan Winston was involved, but I could be wrong there.
Dedicated to his memory, isn't it?
Was that?
I'm sure it's either that one or Genesis. One of them is dedicated to his memory.
Yeah, I think it might be this one, now that I think about it. But yeah, anyway, that's 2008's Terminator Salvation, starring Christian Bale in this one, right after I think he did the Batman films. Batman Returns. Is it Returns? Yeah, it is. No, it's Begins. I always get them confused. Yeah. Batman Begins and The Dark Knight, and he even sounds a bit like The Dark Knight in this film with his voice, what he's doing. So what do you guys think of this one? I do have issues with this one, but I will go last. So James, what do you think of Terminator Salvation, my friend?
Love the concept, hate the movie. I went to the cinema to see this one, and I was really excited to see it. I had been, I don't know, what have I been, 15, 16 in 2008, and I remember going with my mates and sort of just been, excited to sort of see where they took the franchise. And again, like I say, excited by the concept, because it's the first and the only Terminator film that there's no real time travel in it, is there? So we know it sort of, they don't send Reese back. They don't, there's no Terminator sent back or whatever. It's just the story of sort of, getting Kyle Reese to be ready to where he sort of needs to be. And I really liked the idea of the whole sort of Sam Worthington's character, of him being a sort of a test run and an early sort of draft of what the Terminator might be, but him still having the human consciousness and him not being fully machine, and that sort of, even though obviously we know straight away that sort of reveal for him that he's come back from the dead as a machine rather than somehow just survived his execution. whatever else. I like that. I sort of liked the sort of the where you can see where John Connor gets the idea to, right, well, we might be able to reprogram one of these guys and use them to our advantage. You can sort of kind of see the cogs turning a bit. But I think everybody's just horribly miscast. I think Christian Bale is terrible as John Connor. And I think same with Bryce Dallas Howard. And Sam Worthington. This was just that period of time where he was everywhere, wasn't it? It was Avatar was just about to come out, and I think he'd done Clash of the Titans the same time. And I can't remember, there was another big one as well that he was in. He was sort of everywhere, wasn't he, for a minute? But I don't know. The concept's great. If they'd have had the right writers, the right director, and the right cast. I think it genuinely could have been a concept that could have stood up there with maybe not T2, but at least the first one. But again, swing and a miss.
Yeah. Terminator Salvation. I too watched this at the cinema. I went into it not expecting too much. I just look at it as a standalone movie, even though at the time they were kind of trying to set up for a new trilogy of Terminator movies, with the Reese and the John Connor characters. I actually liked Christian Bale's portrayal as John Connor. I mean, I think at that time, he probably could have carried a second and third movie, quite believable as the Resistance leader for the humans. I kind of sort of, believed in him and in that. The issue that I have with it is kind of like Sam Worthington and Christian Bale. It's like, who's supposed to be like the main star of the movie, because it focuses quite a bit on the Marcus character. Then obviously towards the end you get more of the John Connor sort of story. So yeah, I was kind of a little bit puzzled on that, but then I kind of do like the idea that it's kind of set, concentrated on the war between the humans and the machines. I kind of like that idea. I mean, the action's not too bad. Again, it's not a movie that out of the Terminator movies that I would watch over and over again. Actually, I've only seen it twice.
Same. Yeah, same.
So,
Same here. Yeah.
yeah, I mean, so-called Arnie scene in it. Everybody actually cheered. I watched that at the cinema. I don't know if they did the same when you watched it, James, but whether that was just kind of for a moment where you didn't get a lot of the sort of moments from the original Terminator movies. I mean, you did get the "You Could Be Mine" soundtrack played in one of the radios, one of the sort of boom boxes that they found in the future with the Guns N' Roses. I thought that was pretty cool. Yeah, I mean, it's an okay movie. It's an okay movie, but then it's a little bit difficult to judge because obviously we didn't get the second movie. I mean, I kind of get the idea that they're setting everything up for a follow up. Obviously, we didn't get that, but
which is a pattern that will repeat.
Yeah, so I mean, for me, it's not the worst. It's not the worst Terminator movie in the series. It's watchable.
Yeah, it is watchable, all right. But yeah, the biggest problem for me with this one is every other future scene we saw in T1 and T2 and even T3, they were all set at night, and most of this film is like set in like broad daylight, and that sort of just feels off to me. I get it, the night shoots are expensive, and even if you want to, CGI everything to look like night, that's going to be costly as well. I can imagine that. But they should have just made most of this film like shot during the nighttime. I feel, because even in the first one, Kyle says, during the day we stay low, we stay hidden. At night we fight the machines. That's what it should have been for me. So that's the biggest issue for me. Again, it's same as T3 as an action film. I think it's quite watchable. It's quite decent. But yeah, again, as a Terminator film, it just really falls flat, and especially as a future war this was the future war we were promised. This is the big future war for Terminator film, and it just did not really deliver for me. So yeah, I mean, again, it's watchable, but yeah, not one I'm gonna watch over and over again. I just like you guys only watched twice. The first time I watched it was actually a few years ago. I sort of avoided this one for a while because there was no Arnie in it, because pretty much no involvement from anyone from the original films. This was my second time watching it for the stream, and I did enjoy it more this time than I did the last time. I gotta admit that. But yeah, I don't think this will ever be a absolute favorite of mine. Let's put it that way. So before we go to the other ones, which again, like I said, the pattern will repeat itself where they try to set up a film for a possible trilogy, which we will never see any resolution to. Before we go on to the next few films, what a shame indeed. Go on to a few more comments. Slipknot fan, this is in regards to T2 again. The dream sequence in T2 with Kyle Reese was one of the best parts of the extended cut. Yeah, I absolutely agree.
I agree with that.
Absolutely, yeah.
A question from Leo. He says, what's your favorite Terminator ripoff, clone, or homage movie? Now, I'm struggling coming up with one. I think maybe Universal Soldier can be considered, because that was sort of in the wake of T2, if I'm not mistaken. And that sort of has the cyborg thing going on. Maybe Universal Soldier would be my answer, but I don't know if it 100% applies. But
I don't know that it's even remotely a clone, a rip-off, or an homage, but the one that comes to mind, I just think of RoboCop. I kind of pair the two of those up.
Yeah.
Sort of both of the 80s, both sort of, similar sort of.
I guess RoboCop would be a good one. Yeah, I'd probably go RoboCop. Yeah.
For me, I was going to say RoboCop, but I think the film that might have influenced Arnie's portrayal as the robot would be the Yul Brynner.
Westworld,
in Westworld, because just the way he walks, he's walking quite fast. I mean, Westworld is a great movie, and I'm pretty sure Arnie. I read something that Arnie was kind of influenced with Brynner's performance in Westworld.
I think I've read that as well. Yeah.
I really said it all James Cameron, but I mean, I had both of those movies, RoboCop, as a kind of like a rip-off for Terminator, a faint rip-off, and then obviously as a strong influence, Westworld, for sure.
Awesome. So there you go, Leo. So we got Dave saying, I saw T2 on the first day it came out, and there was a bomb scare at the cinema, and everyone still went back in to watch the end of the film. That's interesting.
Some arc of a film, that, isn't it?
Mr. Dan Horror in the house. Hey, Mr. Dan.
Hi there, Dan.
This is... Jem is saying OJ was in Capricorn 1 and that movie rocks. I have not seen that film, to be honest.
Oh, it's great.
That's a good movie, good movie.
That is a very good movie. Yeah, OJ was great when he turned up and stuff. It's just, it's his private life, isn't it? It's the problem.
A little bit.
friend of mine always, and obviously there's always exceptions to this. You've got to draw a line somewhere, but a friend of mine always says, try and separate the art from the artist.
Yeah.
Very true. Yeah.
I think I would have much preferred Lance instead of OJ.
It would have been interesting if, that would have been something, because he's a great bad guy, obviously, in like stuff like Hard Target and stuff. But yeah,
and he's got one of them faces. He can look really creepy as well.
Yeah, he even plays a great android, I guess, sort of a little bit like a cyborg in Aliens. But
yeah. I suppose it's weird, isn't it? Because if he'd have done Terminator first, then he might not have done Bishop. But
that's true.
He's so lovable as Bishop that I would struggle to see him playing a villainous role. Like, I know he's done, like you say, Hard Target and whatever else, but like, I'd just struggle to see him in that, because I think he's just such a lovable character.
Yeah. Plus, how it ended up, with him being the sort of wisecracking cop with the other guy, it sort of worked out, because he had some great banner, those guys,
Yeah,
in the first film. That coffee's 2 hours cold, and I put a cigarette out in it, stuff like that. Yeah.
It's just when he's telling him to shut up as well, isn't it? When he's just sort of giving too much away, and he's just, Shut up.
I don't look like shit, boss. Your mama. We got a Slipknot fan here, Gary. He says he likes most of the extended cut. The only parts are probably not needed were T800 learning to smile and a T1000 malfunctioning scenes. Oh, I like those bits. Again, I grew up with that version, so that's pretty much all I'm used to. But yeah, I can see why people don't like it as much. But Yam Yam saying with 101 Films doing the Blu-ray commentary of Never Sleep Again and Crystal Lake Memories, I'd love them to do one for the Terminator for the whole franchise. I think there is a documentary series on RoboCop. That is true, but it would be cool if they did that for Terminator. Yeah, RoboDoc. That's it. Yeah, would be cool if they did that for Terminator films. Shocking Dark was a mishmash of Terminator and Aliens, all wrapped up in a badly dubbed package.
That sounds like a brilliant time.
And the follow-up to that, it was utter gossip and brilliant at all at once. Okay, there you go. Now, this is something I always wanted to do this, but I don't think it's anywhere near me. But has anyone been to the theme park exclusive Terminator short film, the T2?
Who is it? Who is it? Oh. Hang on.
No worries. T2 Battle Across Time. So I guess we can answer before Carlos comes back. Have you ever been to that, James?
I've not, mate. No, I've seen clips of it on YouTube, but I've never had the never had the privilege of going to America.
Same here.
Theme parks. I've only been to the theme parks that we've got here, and they're pale in comparison to the likes of Disney World and all that. Yeah.
I guess we'll just wait for Carlos to come back. Let's go through a few more comments.
They say, don't they, that's like 2.5 Terminator 2.5, don't they? The Battle Across Time, because I can't remember.
That. I think the full film is short film is on YouTube. Yeah.
Yeah, but I think don't Arnie and Linda and Edward Furlong come back?
And they all come back. Robert Patrick as well. Yeah. Yeah. There he is. Can you hear us, Carlos?
Arriving, mate.
I think his earbuds are disconnected. And wait for it. He's gonna drop off. Yeah. Okay. There we go, guys. The first big internet mishap on Carlos's end.
Oh, he's back.
Sorry.
It's moving. Yeah.
Yeah. Sorry. We had a special. I thought we was gonna have a special guest there with my nephew.
Okay. We were talking about the sort of the T2 theme park thing, Battle Across Time. Have you been to that, Carlos? No. Okay, that makes 3 of us then. We have Mike here from Mike's DVD and Blu-ray collection. Hey, Mike.
Hi there, Mike.
Hi, Mike.
Going on T3. Nick Stahl is horribly miscast. It's pointless rehash, and the comedy is god awful. But it has entertaining action, and TX is a good film, and I like Claire Danes' flawed but solid free. Oh, like Claire Danes, but it's a flawed but solid 3-star film. Okay, there you go. Dave is saying one of the few things that he remembers about the third one is the car she steals at the start is a Lexus. It is a Lexus. I remember the boob job she does, but that's for different reasons.
I wonder why you remember that.
I do like the first film.
Reasons.
Yeah. More every time I watch it, I guess is what that's saying. Yeah. Mike is saying the first one is the best and my favorite by far. Well, we're gonna get the favorites, but yeah, that seems to be a popular opinion. It's either 1 or 2, isn't it? So, Leo is saying he agrees with JT about number 3. The cast this week: Christina Loken is to that point was a TV or B movie actress. Hasn't done much high profile since. Arnie wasn't good as well. As well as the other cast. True. And Leo saying after the first 2 films, he likes Salvation the most. So that would be his third favorite in the series. Okay.
It's got its fans.
Yeah. The truck chase in T3 still holds up, but the film itself isn't great. I actually do like that truck chase. That's pretty good. Yeah.
There's pockets of number 3 that work really well. Like I quite like the graveyard scene again, calling back to the Dr. Silverman
coming back.
That whole run and the grave bin, where Sarah Connor's got another, stash of weapons sort of thing. It's just perfect. Perfectly in keeping with the Sarah Connor that we get in T2. Yeah, there is pockets of it. Yeah.
And Leo has just shared the full T2 Battle Across Time thing, the theme park film. It is on YouTube in its entirety, so if people want to check it out, he has dropped a link to it. Yeah.
Nice one.
Cheers, Leo.
We've got Professor Macabro in the house, all the way from the south of the US in Mexico.
Oh, wow.
Hola,
Cheers
Professor.
for tuning in.
At least he has Mexican roots. I don't know if he's in Mexico for sure, but he has Mexican roots. I do know that. Sean Sheridan saying Christian Bale is solid as John Connor. Anton Yelchin, yeah, is great as Kyle. I really like this movie being the only one that's not a rogue movie. The third best Terminator for me. Not saying much. Yeah, solid movie. Okay, so for two people at least, that's the first favorite hit. So
I wanted to love it. I really did want to love it.
Yeah, I gave it a shot, but yeah. The best thing about Terminator Salvation is Christian Bale's meltdown at the cameraman. I knew someone was going to bring it up.
I'm glad somebody's mentioned that. You're a nice guy. You're a nice guy.
Yeah.
Did you ever see it on Family Guy where they put Peter Griffin responding to it?
Really?
I think I did. Yeah.
Oh, it's brilliant. I'll have to find the link, Carlos, and send you it afterwards.
Yeah, send it to us.
That scene. Yeah, you're a nice guy. You're a nice guy. Well, I sure don't feel like a nice guy, but.
Oh yeah, that's true. The actor that played Kyle Reese in Salvation has passed away. Yeah, rest in peace to him. Yeah,
he was much better in the Star Trek reboot.
He was in that as well. Yeah. Yeah, we do got some love for that actor. Yeah, Dave is saying as well he liked him as Kyle in Salvation. And yeah, I'm almost caught up with the comments, so let's go ahead to the fifth film in this series. Again, one that has fans divided. I saw it in cinema. I've seen it a few times on physical media. Like most of the other sequels, the only ones I have on high def are T1 and T2, and the rest are I have on DVD. I have T3 on DVD. I have Terminator Genesis on DVD, which is the one we're going to discuss now, and Dark Fate as well. Because they're lesser quality films for me. But yeah, so Terminator Genesis, guys. 2015. This one brought back Arnold again. Recast for Sarah Connor and Kyle Reese. Different actors. Different actor for John Connor again. But at the time, this did have James Cameron's backing or his thumbs up. He said this was a good film. As he did with Dark Fate as well.
Remember that sack of money we talked about that they put on Arnold's door? Yeah, that went to Cameron.
Yeah, this brought back some elements from T1 and even T2, much to the dismay or pleasure of some fans. Terminator Genesis, guys, 2015. What do you guys think of it? Let's have it. I have my opinion. It's not going to be a popular one, but James, go ahead.
Absolute shite. I watched this for the first time Sunday, was it? This weekend just gone. Sometime in the last week anyway. It was whenever me and you were texting last, Carlos. And like we talked about earlier, I saw that trailer in 2015 probably before Batman versus Superman or something like that, on one of the Marvel jobbies. And obviously it gave everything away. And I thought it looked atrocious just from the trailer. And then when I realized where the story was going, I was like, oh, fuck this for a game of darts. And never bothered. And then picked up the Blu-ray when it was cheap. Because I thought at some point I will get round to watching it. And I'm sure we're all guilty of this, where you buy something when it's on sale and then it sits on the shelf forevermore. But yeah, finally watched it for this. So I think it's fair to say I don't like it, but some redeeming qualities. I quite liked concepts of the time travel element, and the sort of I liked the fact that when they sent Reese back to the original Terminator film, obviously that the change this time was that the bad guys in the present day had got there first and were able to sort of alter the timeline and sort of make it so that when he gets back there he's irrelevant. I liked that. And then I liked the bit with Arnie where it was I've been damaged, so I'm going to have to take the long way round. And sort of, you know, they had him sort of as the man on the ground, sort of preparing. But that's about where the positives stop for me. I thought that having Matt Smith in there as some sort of a villain was a complete waste of time. Horribly miscast, I think, is going to be my most used quote of this stream. But he just didn't work at all. The twist with John Connor, if you can call it that, would have been a great pull the rug from under your feet moment in the third act or the end of the second act. But why put it in the trailers?
If they hadn't put it in the trailer, yeah.
Why? You know what?
Yeah.
Because there's so much more that you could have done with that. They could have, you know, sort of been trying to defeat Genesis, or it's Genesis in that one, isn't it? Yeah. Yeah. But they could have been trying to defeat it, and they could have, you know, then sort of, well, why has it gone wrong? That sort of a thing. And then he reveals himself, and then you've got the whole sort of, you know, Kyle Reese has got to kill his mentor, and Sarah Connor's got to kill her son. And, you know, you could really do something with the emotional sort of core of that story there if it was done right. You know, when you harken back to, like we said, with the T2 stuff, and, you know, that it's actually got a heart to the story, and that there was a real opportunity there to do something clever with it. And they bollocksed it. Absolutely bollocksed it. A genuine contender for one of the worst films I've ever seen.
Oh, okay.
Carlito?
Now, this is where it stopped for me, watching Terminator movies in the cinema. Again, we had a 12 rating, so that I decided there and then I wasn't going to be watching it. No Linda Hamilton. I was really hoping she was going to get on board, or James Cameron again. The actor who played John Connor, I really wasn't on board with him.
Is he frozen? He's frozen.
I was just thinking that, as he deep in thought.
I thought it was me for a second. I was like, wait,
I was going back. Time traveling. There's ideas. I like the idea where they try to change the timeline of going back to 1984. I thought that was cool. I liked the first 45 minutes. Emilia Clarke, I thought was a decent actress to try and play, you know, step in the role of Sarah Connor instead of Linda Hamilton, even though she looks a fraction a little bit too small. But
she's a very short woman.
Yeah, facially, I thought, I could kind of see her. She's passable. I like Arnie's introduction into the movie, where he just comes out of nowhere and he takes his hood off. I thought that was a cool moment.
I've been waiting for you.
Yeah. So yeah. I mean, I like the first 45 minutes, but then when it gets to the point where they had that helicopter scene, and Arnie kind of, that's when he says, "I'll be back."
Yeah.
And he jumps out the helicopter like Iron Man, and I thought, what the fucking hell's going on? And literally that last 45 minutes, it's like a comic book Marvel movie. It just didn't. So it's kind of like a movie of, well, I wouldn't say a movie of two halves, because I did enjoy the first 45 minutes. But the last 45 minutes, I did not. It went down pretty drastically. I mean, on this revisit, I wanted to kind of like it a whole lot more. And, you know, like I say, in the first 45 minutes, I was thinking, oh, this movie just might go up in my rankings a lot more. But then it literally did come crashing down. I think for the reason, you know, the director, he'd done Thor, The Dark World. He'd done that. So it kind of looks like a superhero movie in the last 45 minutes. So
It felt like a very poor man's 12 Monkeys. With
Yeah.
the bit at the
Yeah.
end with where she does and gives him the quote and sort of brings it all full circle. It was like watching Bruce Willis watch David Morse kill him
Yeah.
in the airport at the end of 12 Monkeys.
Yeah.
But yeah,
I think
yeah.
I mean, the first 45 minutes is positive for me because those retro scenes were quite well. They were quite well done. I mean, the Reese character, yeah, it was passable, but not great. But yeah, again, it kind of, if they're going to go back to sort of change the timeline, then give it that kind of horror feel, like it was in the original movie. That could have been, something cool. But yeah, I mean, the villain thing being revealed as well. I think that's a major blow, especially for box office as well. Knowing John Connor, he's going to be the main villain. So that didn't really work for me, and the actor playing him as well. But it's not the worst Terminator movie for me, believe it or not.
Not for me either. So yeah, like I said, I saw this in the cinema. I didn't see the trailer, which thank God I didn't afterwards, in hindsight. In the theater, I really, really enjoyed it when I saw it on the big screen. I did enjoy it, even though I do have issues with the film. It's not a flawless film by any means. By any means. I saw it a few times, of course, on physical and stuff, and of course on streaming and stuff. It is one of my more watched Terminator films, and that's because I actually don't mind this film as much as other people do. I do like it and enjoy it. I enjoy it more than T3 or Salvation. Don't necessarily love it. Again, I will not go so far as to use that word, but I like it. I have fun with it. I enjoy it. Issues for me, the actor playing Kyle Reese doesn't really cut it for me. Not a patch on Michael Biehn. What's her name? Emilia Clarke as Sarah Connor. I like her. She's pretty and everything. I do like seeing her. Again, not a patch on Linda Hamilton, but I can see it. I can see her as this alternate timeline version of Sarah Connor. I do agree with what Carlos just touched on there. The first 45 minutes of this film, easily the best of the entire, the best bit of the film, especially with the 1984 scenes and stuff. Even though they messed up a lot of stuff in those scenes, just seeing again Arnold versus Arnold, that's great. I love that, and the CGI that they used for young Arnold, I thought it was pretty spectacular when I first saw it. I mean, it still looks pretty good, not as well as the T2 effects, but. So overall, I'm more positive on this film than other people. But don't mistake that for love. That there's no love for this film. I like it. That's again, for me, it's the best of the sequels beyond 2, to be honest. But yeah, that's me on Genesis. Have I gone mad? No, I like it. I like it.
It's like what we said earlier, though, isn't it? Everybody's got a different opinion, and it'd be really boring if we all thought the same thing.
Yeah. No, absolutely. But
I think they tried
Genesis. It's an interesting one.
I think they tried too many different ideas. They were cramming in so many ideas into the movie, and it's like, well, what's going on? For somebody who's probably not watched any of the Terminator movies or missed 1 or 2, you'd be like thinking, for the average Terminator fan, you're thinking, well, what the hell's going on here, sort of thing.
Yeah. I think a big part of why I like it is because I did not see that trailer. I think that definitely had a hand in it because I didn't see that trailer. I didn't get that sort of plot twist, if you want to call it that, sort of spoiled for me. So I think that might be a part of it. But overall, I just pretty much enjoyed this one more than I do the previous sequels. Again, after the second one, that is. Professor Macabre was saying he likes. Termiformers or Terminator Salvation. Yeah, it had some good ideas, but yeah, Christian isn't charismatic enough to be the savior of mankind. It felt like his equilibrium. That's a tough word for me to pronounce. Character.
I really agree with that comment. Yeah.
Yeah. Dave was saying, being born in Stoke in the UK, I'm still amazed You Could Be Mine was written by someone from my hometown. I did not know that. And Bob is saying, have you watched The Sperminator? That's gotta be a joke, surely. That must be like the XXX version of the film.
It brings a whole new meaning to Come With Me If You Want to Live, doesn't it?
It does.
Nicely put.
That's what
I've
she
been
said.
on, yeah. Cheekster says he's been on a T2 ride twice, so that's awesome. Again, I've never been. I would love to, but. And this was when somebody was at your door, Carlos. Jim saying somebody at Carlos's door asking, "Are you Serricano?"
Yeah. No, they weren't.
I didn't hear any barking dogs, so it must not have been a Terminator then. To be honest, I gave up after Salvation. So Jim said, I still have not seen Genesis or Dark Fate. Oh, we're gonna get to Dark Fate. Anyway, Sean is saying Terminator 5, Genesis that is the one he really dislikes. The two that play Sarah and Kyle terrible. It feels like fan fiction. What if Sarah was raised by Arnold? What if John was a Terminator just garbage? Okay. Yeah.
Did you ever see the episode of Futurama where the professor puts the thing into the what if machine? No. Oh,
I haven't watched much. Yeah, I watched like Family Guy and South Park, but I haven't watched too much of Futurama. But yeah,
that comment from Sean then just reminded me of that. There's an episode that they do where they do exactly that sort of thing. Just put the most random of situations into this thing and then just have fun with it. But yeah, it probably helps if you've seen it.
There are some positives though. That I think this is about Genesis as well. The dude that plays John is good. He likes the app taking over angle, but this movie's just over budget nonsense. Yeah, I do like that app bit. It sort of modernizes the whole thing. It's like we all have a phone, we all have apps and stuff, so it rings true to home, I guess. But
yeah, I suppose so.
Terminator Genesis, appropriately, it has a Doctor Who in it, with all the timey-wimey nonsense it has. I did like the old but not obsolete scene. Yeah, I do like that bit as well. Yeah. Quite like Terminator Genesis, urban legend that Robert Patrick is in it. There is a rumor that he's there in the scene, but it's been debunked and stuff. But yeah, who knows?
Oh, okay.
Yes, I like Genesis and hated Blazing Saddles. You are correct, Jim.
Well, to be fair, Blazing Saddles is a terrible Terminator movie.
True. It's also a terrible movie. But yeah. Sean is saying, as for Dark Fate, it's not a bad movie just because John Connor's killed. Oh, but this brings us to, let's just go into it. Terminator Dark Fate 2019, the last Terminator film to date. Hopefully the last, but it probably won't be.
Yeah, I was going to say, hopefully the last Terminator.
Yeah. But yeah, Terminator Dark Fate finally bringing back Linda Hamilton in this one, being rated R again, going for 16 or 18 rating again, instead of the PG-12, if I can speak, PG-13 rating. This one promised to bring more swear words in it because of the R rating. This one promised to brought back more violence. This one showcased Linda Hamilton prominently on the posters and trailers and stuff. And yet, when I saw this one in the cinema after the first 5 minutes, I wanted to walk out. I still stuck with it. But enough about me. James, what do you think about Terminator Dark Fate?
Well, this is where I'm going to get booted off the stream. Yeah, I'll quote you just now, Jeff. I don't love this film, but I like it a whole lot. I would even go so far as to say this is where I'm going to lose all credibility as a film fan here. There never needed to be a Terminator 3. Yeah. Terminator 1, Terminator 2, it should have been a 1-2 punch and done. But if there had to be a Terminator 3, this is it.
Oh, okay.
So I really liked the fact that the marketing material, the trailers, the posters, nothing told you about, hang on, what's going on with John Connor. And especially after, the complete misfire of the previous one. I think, that sort of maybe sort of roused some people's sort of anticipation and suspicion. It certainly did mine. It's like, right, okay, what are they going to do with that? And then they sort of said, right, well, we're gonna, we're gonna bring Edward Furlong back, and we're gonna do something, a bit of trickery with him. So okay. So then with that first scene, I thought that was brilliant because it completely wiped the slate clean, because you don't know where the story's going to go. Then it can go anywhere, because they've stopped Judgment Day. The only thing that's canon is T2, and those events take place 2 or 3 years afterwards or whatever. And then there's no way that future, that Terminator 3, Salvation, whatever, any of that can ever happen, and it's just complete clean slate. And I really liked that. My biggest problem with the film is that I don't think the actress that plays Danny is great in the scenes where it's the flash forward and she's the John Connor of the new timeline sort of thing, where she's giving the big speech, and I think that's where it falls down. And I also think that Mackenzie Grace, is it?
Mackenzie Davis. Yeah,
Mackenzie
Grace's
Davis.
character name. Yeah.
I think. Yeah, I think she has moments where she's really great as one of the Terminators, augmented humans. But I think that there's also moments where she's a bit rubbish. But on the whole, I really liked the, seeing where Linda Hamilton's character, where Sarah Connor would be 30 years later. I love the escape from the immigration detention center, and we've never had a celebrity in here before, and well, I'm kind of wanted in a couple of states. Which one? 50 of them. And it's like, well, you've never had an Entertainment Tonight special about you or whatever she says, or Deadly Women or whatever. I really liked that. I really enjoyed, is it Gabriel Luna? Playing the Rev 9.
Yeah.
What I really liked was they took what worked about the Robert Patrick sort of, the liquid sort of, that sort of thing, the Terminator. But then they were like, right, okay, well, actually, for the first time, he can be 2 Terminators. He can be his liquid morph sort of thing, but then he can also be the endoskeleton as well, and they can sort of team up. And I thought that was, that was cool. I thought Linda Hamilton slipped back into it perfectly. I really, really enjoyed her in the movie, and I thought she portrayed incredibly well. Again, going back to what I said earlier about how underrated of an actress she is, the sort of the torment when they have to team back up with Arnie halfway through the film, and she realizes which Terminator Arnie is. The torment of, well, I've got to do this because I've got to save the world, but you're the Terminator that's killed my boy. And I really enjoyed it. I enjoyed old Arnie in this more than I enjoyed what they did with Pops in Genesis. I think it was, you've kind of got to I'm trying to think how to say this succinctly. I'm not being very succinct this evening, but there's the whole bit in the T2 Extended that we talked about where they have to like manually sort of reset his chip so that he can learn. And I think you have to kind of make that jump that somehow that's happened. And what do they sort of say? Something like, oh, well, since I completed my mission, I was, free to do what I want, sort of thing. And you just have to just roll with it, sort of thing. But I think it's quite amusing. Like, right, well, what would a Terminator that's been around for 30 years be doing if it can learn to blend in and to do whatever? And again, I just thought it was an interesting concept. And
apparently selling drapes is what it would do, but yeah,
that was stupid.
Yeah,
that was stupid. I think it sort of echoes the commentary we've made about some of the comedy in some of the later sequels that didn't need to be there. I think they could have just turned up at the cabin, and that's where he was, and we didn't need to know that he was a drape salesman or whatever. And I even didn't mind that he had a family. But yeah, like I say, it's an unnecessary film. It's not in any way, shape, or form needed. And if it didn't exist, it wouldn't be a problem. But if there had to be a third entry in the franchise, this is the one I'd pick.
Oh, okay.
Carlos?
Where I'd come down.
I I just didn't like the movie. I mean, I think the only positive bit about the movie is Linda Hamilton. She returns. I didn't. I actually didn't. I didn't mind it's kind of the Hispanic setting. That wasn't the problem for me. Gabriel Luna, I enjoyed, but that's probably about it, really. I didn't like the fact that it's directed by another director who's done a superhero movie, Deadpool.
Yeah, Tim Miller, isn't it? Yeah.
Yeah. Again, I mean, I watched this last night, and again, I wanted to like this because obviously this has kind of got a good connection between. This is straight after Judgment Day, 20 odd years after. You know, Sarah Connor character is there. I thought Linda Hamilton aged well, actually. I thought she kind of just literally walked back into the role of Sarah Connor with ease, and it looked at she's the best thing about the movie. But it's for me, it's the action halfway through towards the end of the movie where you've got Arnie in these helicopter scenes and underwater scenes. I was like, what the fucking hell's going on here? Yeah, I just did not like him for that. Yeah, I thought it was a total misfire for me. Again, it was supposed to be a reboot, and it's kind of, well, it's killed, for me, in my opinion, it's killed the Terminator franchise.
I mean, Arnie hasn't done a theatrical film since, has he? He's only
Since,
done the Fubar
yeah.
TV series. Yeah, he hasn't done a film since this one. Yeah.
I mean, he comes into it after about an hour or so, which I didn't mind. The old Terminator, different, but it's just the way the action. I didn't mind the action in the first sort of 20, 30 minutes, but from the hour mark, I just thought it was really OTT. I mean, like I say, Arnie Terminator underwater. No, not for me. I just found it just got really silly and ridiculous. As much as they wanted to make it a 15 and more hard-edged, which is a shame because Linda Hamilton returned in one of her, well, it's her most iconic role, but it's a misfire for me.
Yeah. I think it's safe to say I'm a fan of this one. No, that was sarcastically, of course. No, it's a misfire for me as well. Again, like I said, when I watched it in cinema, after the first 5 minutes, I wanted to walk out. The only reason I didn't is because I went with two of my mates, and I was the one driving. So if I went, they would have to walk home. That's the only reason I stayed in my seat and watched the rest of the film. But no, I mean, there are good elements too. It's not all bad or terrible. I mean, again, I think Linda Hamilton coming back is the saving grace of this film. She is the one thing really that really makes this film just worth the name of the Terminator for me. Again, it does some interesting. I do like Gabriel Luna as the Rev 9. The Grace character is an interesting one where she's sort of not really a cyborg, she's sort of enhanced and stuff. I did like that concept. But the whole thing just, and I'm probably going to piss people off with it, but the whole thing just sort of fell a little woke, quote unquote, to me, where now it's going to be female leader of the resistance, kill off John Connor, we don't need to woo, we just need her, and all those comments that were made in the film, it was just felt a little too agenda pushing for me. And not necessarily with the Mexican border angle. I do like the Mexican, but that definitely is relevant and stuff with today's time. Just like the same year, Rambo: Last Blood, that dealt with the Mexican border as well, which I like way more than this one, I should add. But no, I mean, it's just a total misfire for me. Arnold coming into like a hour and 10 minutes into it. That's the first time you see Arnie properly, apart from the opening scene, where it's a de-aged Arnold. Again, him having the name Carl doesn't sit right with me. Even Linda Hamilton says, I'm never going to fucking call you Carl. So, yeah.
And she does.
Yeah. And the one thing from Arnie I do like is it's a different spin on the I'll be back. And this one he says, I won't be back, which is I did like that. That was ironic. I like that, and he didn't come back after all. He hasn't come back since. But yeah, no,
Depends how much
it's
cash you're offering.
it
Yeah,
depends how much cash. Yeah, that's definitely true. But no, it's not all bad for that. There are good things. And some of the jokes do land for me, and even with Arnie as the drape salesman, where he goes on about you need polka dots, you need unicorns, you need don't just use a college, you got to use a pony, you got to put stuff on there. It's yeah. There are things that make me chuckle, but overall, it's a absolute misfire. And I think this one it did make some money, but I don't think it was a hit at all.
no.
I think they didn't even. I think they barely sort of broke even, if you will. But yeah,
I
it's a
think they had to
shame that
make.
this is where the Terminator series has ended for now. But yeah,
I think they had to make $250 million to sort of
to break
even
even, yeah, yeah,
to even consider doing a a follow-on movie, which
yeah.
it's not going to happen as of yet.
Which is interesting because yeah, Terminator Salvation was meant to set up a trilogy. Genesis was meant to set up a trilogy, and this
Yeah,
one, but yeah, goes to show that nobody wants
I,
that.
I think that's where they go wrong with a lot of these sequels. Is they do a sequel with the intention of setting up a sequel to the sequel to the sequel.
Yeah,
Just make a good film, and if you get a sequel, you get a sequel.
yeah.
indeed. Yeah. So yeah, it's safe to say that me and Carlos didn't like Dark Fate, but James actually did
No.
enjoy it. So that's yeah.
I told you beforehand we'd have some interesting opinions. And I'm not just saying that to be contrary either. I genuinely
No.
prefer it to the other ones.
I
Yeah.
mean, the storyline and the opening scene, is probably the best thing going into the movie. Plus Linda Hamilton. I wanted to be on board with the story. I didn't mind John Connor getting killed. I thought, that's brave, but it's just for me, it's just the action and some of the characters. It just felt really off with me. I mean, I know James Cameron. He was involved in the story. I just wished he would have bloody directed the movie.
Mm. Yeah,
You
instead
know,
of doing a million freaking Avatar films. Yeah.
yeah, Avatar 3 and 4 and shit like that.
Yeah. So do a few more comments before we go to our favorite aspects and stuff from this series. Sean is saying this is again in regards to Dark Fate, which he says, which has something to say about how you never truly get over losing a loved one. No, this is in regards to John Connor killing off a bit. As for the rest of the film, movie not crazy about Danny Ramos. Grace is a great character, and I really like the Ref 9, is what he says.
Mm.
But, and this is a follow up, it is another pointless rehash, so in a way I'm sad this movie got way overhated, but its reception ended the franchise. It should have happened after T2. Yeah, that's definitely when the franchise
Yeah.
should have ended in retrospect, but yeah. Dave was saying, remember saying to my bass teacher, I feel like I'd seen everything in movies, and the next day I saw Dark Fate. That totally shocked me.
I like that.
Professor Macabre was saying Terminator Dark Fate, aka Arnie's Angels. I like that. I like that. I find it sad that Terminator went to choose your own adventure timeline mess of like Halloween. Yeah.
That's an interesting comparison, actually, because they did pretty much the same thing, didn't they, with Halloween?
Yeah.
Never made that comparison before either.
Just thought when I saw Dark Fate at the cinema, the roof was leaking. It makes me think every time I see a Terminator film at the cinema, something weird. Oh yeah, because when you saw T2, there was a bomb threat, wasn't it? Yeah.
He's got a lot of bad luck when he watches movies.
Yeah. And then Mike is saying, I thought Dark Fate was alright, but when I first viewed it, but for all the good ideas like the new Terminator, I didn't enjoy it the second time. I actually liked it a little more the second time. I'm never gonna love this film, but yeah, I mean, I personally think if Arnold wasn't the lead role as a Terminator, I don't think there would have been sequels. I think it's him that created the sequels because of his robotic voice and look. Also, then we have to.
Yeah, I agree with that.
Couldn't see any other actors at that time. Yeah, they're definitely. I don't think any other actor could have played the Terminator as well as he did.
Yeah.
And he's saying same for Linda Hamilton and Sarah Connor. I couldn't see anyone else playing her who's also sexy, sympathetic, and likable. Yeah.
Mm.
Savoy says, I watched the first episode of Terminator. I guess this is the TV series, the Sarah Connor Chronicles.
Yeah.
Has any of you seen that one?
No, if I'd have had time before this, I wouldn't have minded actually watching it, because again, it's another alternate future, isn't it? After T2.
Yeah.
But no, I did never seen it. Didn't watch it the first time round, and didn't have
Do you
time.
know something?
I watched a few episodes of it, but not all of it. Yeah.
Do you know something, guys? I've actually got it in my watch pile over there, and
Yeah.
I've owned it. I've owned it for quite a few years and never got around to watching it. And I thought, I'm going to watch all the movies ready in preparation for the stream, and I'm going to tackle it. I think the timeline is more or less after Judgment Day, after the second Terminator
From
movie.
what I remember, yeah.
Yeah. And I think they done 2 seasons, and reviews of it weren't too bad. But yeah.
Yeah, I've seen a bit of it. I think a handful of episodes from the first season. I think I was watching it on TV at the time when, or maybe not the time it aired, but a little bit later. It still aired here on TV. Watched a few episodes on TV, but yeah, from what I saw, I did enjoy it. I wouldn't mind actually picking up a series and giving it a go, but I'm thinking maybe Dave is referring to the recent release anime, which I think is on Netflix. Now, I'm not an anime guy by any means.
No, I'll pass
But
on
if
that.
any of you have seen the anime, yeah,
No, not really my cup of tea either. Isn't that style
yeah,
of film? So.
because he's saying he's watched the first episode in Japanese. That's what tipped me off. It's the anime. So
okay.
yeah, and you watch the second episode in English, it lost all its charm. Yeah, probably best off watching it in the original language. Is always what I sort of think. Anyway, Mike is saying I like Dark Fate the first time around. Oh wait, did I already read this comment?
Just read that.
Oh, he's rephrased it, I think.
Yeah.
Okay.
But for every good idea, like bring Hamilton back, have an endoskeleton with liquid metal outer, it just let itself down with other ideas, and then he finishes off with shite. Yeah, exactly my sentiments as well. Terminator Zero. Yeah, that's the anime series. Yeah, that's it.
Oh, okay.
Andy says, what Terminator film do you think Arnie is at his worst and best? Well, this actually brings us on to our sort of favorite bits, favorite quotes, and favorite moments and stuff like that. So let's answer this question first. I think, wait, let's have James answer it first.
Oh, you're all right, mate. Go for it if you want.
Oh, go ahead.
So his best has got to be T2. I don't think there's any beating that. I think we're probably all going to say the same there. And for me, his worst is Genesis. God awful. But yeah. I think, like I said, sort of number one, he's finding his feet, isn't he? He doesn't, nobody quite knows what the character is at that point yet. He's defining it, isn't he? Number two, he perfects it. 3, he's phoning it in for a wad of cash. And I suppose really 5 and 6, he's probably doing the same.
True. Yeah. Carlos?
I love his portrayal of the cyborg assassin.
I knew you were going there. Yeah.
As it is in the movie. But I've got to agree with what James says. I mean, obviously, 84 to 91, Arnie's now become a bigger movie star. So by the time T2, he's more comfortable with whatever performance he's going to be in the Terminator movie, and he's at his best on T2. So I've got to go with that. Even though I love it, I just love him as the bad guy cyborg assassin for the storyline. The worst, I've probably got to have to say the third one, even though I do enjoy the movie quite a bit. I think it kind of does look like he's missing James Cameron. Obviously, in Dark Fate, he's not in it a whole lot. As in Genesis, the pops, I wasn't really on board with that, and some of the smiley scenes on that where he's trying to smile.
It is
I was
nice to
thinking,
meet
well,
you.
yeah, that didn't really go, that didn't sit well with me. So
Yeah.
it's probably going to have to be either Rise of the Machines or Genesis as the worst.
Yeah. So for me, that's T2 hands down. For me, even though again I do love the iconicness of the way he was in the first one as the killer. I get it; it's damn iconic and stuff. But I just think, performance-wise, it's the best in the second one. Worse, I would actually agree with you, Carl. It's the third one for me. It just feels so off in that film, even compared to like Genesis or Dark Fate. It just his performance in the third one in particular just really feels off as a Terminator for me.
Yeah.
I don't know what he just seems more angry and stuff. He's just sort of, I don't know. He just doesn't feel robotic enough, I guess, for me in that one. So that would be my answer. So let's rank this series, shall we? Let's do our ranking of the Terminator films. Go ahead, James. Least favorite to favorite.
Least favorite to favorite. So coming in dead last, then drum roll. It's got to be Genesis, and then I would say coming in at number 5 is probably gonna be Salvation. Number 4, Rise of the Machines. 3, Dark Fate. 2, the original, and number 1, T2.
The worst got to be Dark Fate. I just probably won't watch that movie ever again. 5th, I've got to say Genesis. The last 4, I could watch those movies quite easily. Number 4, Salvation. 3rd, I've got to say Rise of the Machines. I do have a soft spot for that. This is where it gets tricky. The original and T2, which are both classics, 10 out of 10 movies. Now,
Seems like we have an error in the transmission.
You have been terminated.
Your connection has been terminated.
Oh dear. Do you want to guess what's his number 2 and what's his number 1 going to be?
I think he's gonna go number 2 on 2. Oh,
I still.
you're back.
You're back.
You're back.
He's back.
Yeah, I'm back. I'll be back. Yeah.
Yeah.
I would have loved to see Arnie have played the cyborg assassin for the second movie and maybe the third movie as the hero, then end the trilogy. So I've got to say Terminator, the original, because I think T2 is slightly the better film. It's a better crafted movie.
Oh wait, so you go T1 on 2 and T2 on 1.
For second, for second,
The second is
I'd
favorite.
say the original movie, and the first movie is Terminator 2, the director's cut.
Yeah, because we missed that part. That's okay. No, that's clear. As for me, last Darkseid. Then
I've never guessed.
Salvation, probably I would put after that. Then I go T3. Then T3. Where am I at? Genesis. Then number 2, the original Terminator, and then number 1, obviously it's T2, Judgment Day. So that's my ranking. That's Dark Fate, Salvation, Terminator 3, Genesis, Terminator, and then Terminator 2. Yes. See, guys in the comments who put in your rankings will be interesting.
Yeah, I must confess, I tend to watch the original more than T2.
Yeah. I had a feeling you was going to go T1 as the favorite because you have mentioned it a few times over the years. Yeah,
I thought he was going to rank them in release order as well.
Yeah.
Yeah. Do you know what it is? I love the violent tone of Arnie in the original movie. I just wish we could have just seen that for another movie, and then obviously had him, maybe as in the third movie as a good guy, and yet sort of like a 15. That would have been perfect for me.
Yeah. So, yeah, again, guys in the comments, put in your rankings by all
Yeah,
means.
please.
So it'll be good to see. As we are going to be discussing so I guess top three, could even do top five favorite characters in this series, which are a few characters that are definitely stand out. So, James, favorite characters for this series?
I would say, this might be controversial, but I mean, obviously, Arnie and Linda. But I think my third favorite character is Miles Dyson.
Oh,
Just in terms of like the performance that the actor gives, and his name's escaping me. I've forgotten his bloody name now, but I just think he's great.
any others?
Oh, you thought you wanted top three? Sorry.
Oh, yeah, if you did top three now. So you go Arnie, then Linda, and
And then
Miles been a Dyson. Yeah.
Yeah. But yeah, I mean, obviously, you know, I love the Edward Furlong version of John Connor. I'm not been taken with any other version of him. That's the definitive.
Other than the one that we see in the opening bit of T2 with the scars.
Well, yeah,
yeah.
absolutely, yeah. And obviously, I've professed my my love for Dr. Silverman as a comedic foil.
Yeah, yeah.
As well. That's it. I've upset Carlos. He's gone now.
Oh,
it's just
yeah, he's gone.
It's just the Jeff and Jim stream now.
Will he be back? That's the question. Bum, 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 bum. Yeah. So I guess I'll just go and give some of my favorite characters then, until Carlos returns. So yeah, obviously Arnie, you know, the T-800, Cyberdyne Systems Model 101, you know, cybernetic organism, living tissue of a metal endoskeleton. That's my favorite. I love the T-1000 as well. You know, Robert Patrick, he's got to be in there. Just the way he played, and just the sort of stark contrast between him and Arnie. Arnie is big, massive. He's more, you know, smaller, more slim, more lean and mean. You know, I think James Cameron said it best. Arnie's like a tank, and he's like a Porsche, like a sleek sports car.
Yeah.
We do have Carlos returning, hopefully. You're back. You can hear us?
Yeah, back.
Okay, great. So yeah, I pretty much gave my favorite characters. So, yeah, Linda Hamilton would be in there as well. Sarah Connor, like I said. Also, yeah, Dr. Silverman. He has some of my favorite moments in the first two films for sure. Even in the third one, his scene is probably my favorite bit in the third one. But yeah, in the first one, when she says, you know, so Reese is crazy. In technical terminology, he's a loon. I love that bit. So yeah, Dr. Silverman gets a mention there. Also, I do want to give a mention to the TX. Again, I do like Christina Loken in that film. The concept in particular is the best. The execution of it might not be the best, but I thought there was something there with that character. So, Carlos, favorite characters?
Okay, I'm going to come up with different versions. Favorite characters, obviously, Arnie in Terminator, the original.
Yeah.
Number two would be Sarah Connor, Linda Hamilton in T2, the badass. Number three, I would say Edward Furlong as John Connor in the second movie. Fourth, I've got to say Michael Biehn as Kyle Reese. I think he's such an underrated actor and kind of gets forgotten.
I do agree. Yeah.
And probably the fifth, I'd probably say Arnie in T2 as the good guy. Yeah, but kind of outside those characters, I'd say Christian Bale. I mean, I mean, there's quite a few guys in the comments, and James didn't like him as John Connor. I mean, he's my second favorite John Connor out of all the movies, because you know, a lot of the actors who played John Connor I thought was pretty awful. You know, Nick Stahl in the third one, which was
he was shocking.
Terrible. I mean, I don't know how he was picked. I really do not know.
Do you know what? With the Christian Bale thing, for me, it just kind of felt like he was just playing Batman again.
Yeah, he had the same voice and everything. Yeah,
yeah. It just didn't feel like he was bringing anything new to the table.
Yeah,
No, I think that's just what I couldn't get on board with. But he's a perfectly capable actor, and I love him in the Batman films, Prestige, American Psycho. He's superb. He's a really great actor. I just didn't gel with that performance. But
okay, so here's the fun part, which people like: favorite quotes and favorite scenes. We're going to combine the two. Let's do quotes first. Well, I'm obviously going to do all the impressions and stuff, but we'll bring it over to James first. Favorite quotes?
I'm useless with remembering the actual quotes, but I love the back and forth in the first one between Lance Henriksen and his boss, and like I said, just the rapport that those two have is great. And the exact quote again escapes me, but when Lance Henriksen's giving too much detail to Sarah Connor. And his boss.
There was this guy once. You see the scar, and he pushes him away. Yeah, like
I love that. I obviously love all the all the classic stuff. The "Hasta la vista, baby," "I'll be back," and the one that always makes me laugh, but it does feel a little bit out of place in T2 is "You're calling moi a dipshit?"
A dipshit.
but yeah, that always tickles me. And then the third one as well. I've said it 2 or 3 times, but the Dr. Silverman scene, I too was once in a hostage situation, and people see things,
strange
things, crazy things, and then he flees down the cemetery when he sees him. Just, I love the bit in Miles Dyson's house in the second one as well. Where it's the show him, and then he skins
I'll
his
listen
arm,
to me very carefully.
and then the voiceover comes in sort of, and the Terminator talked, and they listened, and but
I think I'm gonna throw up.
Yeah. This is really daft, is this? And this is just where my random brain goes. But the cadence at which that voiceover is delivered always reminds me of like the Grinch. And the Terminator talked, and they listened, and the Grinch's heart threw 3 sizes that day. It's just where my crazy mind goes. But yeah, I love that. I love all the plays on "Come With Me If You Want to Live" as well. And and then in Dark Fate, Dark Shite, as you've dubbed. I'm never going to be able to call it anything else now. And
that's it.
I do like it, but it's going to be right. Let's get Terminator Dark Shite on. But I like the sort of the glory shot when they're on the loading ramp of the army plane, Linda and Arnie, and they're firing at the Rev 9, and it's sort of that sort of. It's a scene for the audience, isn't it? It serves no bearing on the plot whatsoever, but it's a look. We got the band back together, and I can't help but like that scene.
Yeah,
there you go. Those are mine off the top of my head. There would be more.
Oh, okay, Carlos.
What are we going with? Favorite scenes? Are we?
Favorite quotes, favorite scenes, whichever you want. Yeah, or combine.
Favorite quotes. Obviously, you got the main ones, like James has just said. I think one I always enjoy is the Michael Biehn one when he's getting interrogated, where he goes up to the camera and he goes, "Oh, he'll find you. That's all he does. You can't stop him." I kind of like that because that really says everything about the Arnie character that he's playing, that he just will not stop. So I thought that was a great quote. Again, the "Hey buddy, you got a dead cat in there." I mean, when I watched that originally,
fuck you, asshole.
When that bit came up and he's got the different sort of
different
replies,
responses. Yeah.
I was thinking, oh, I hope he says "fuck you, arsehole," and I didn't think he was going to say that. And when it came out, I was just literally laughing. It's not supposed to be a comedic moment, but to most fans who watch that, who are probably Arnie fans, would have been cheering for that because it was quite laughable. So yeah, I mean, they're probably two of my most sort of memorable ones. I kind of sort of would sort of react those scenes with some of my buddies. Yeah, they're my two favorites. Obviously, you got that's the, you know, La Vista and I'll Be Back, which are the main ones,
Yeah.
but them two more so for me. Jeff,
Okay.
in your best Arnie impression, if you got any.
Well, for me, I mean, I love the entire fucking gun shop scene in the first one where he goes through all the weapons. You know, he starts with the 45 long slide with laser sight. Oh no, wait, he starts with the 12 gauge autoloader. 12 gauge autoloader. That's a beauty. You can go pump or auto. The 45 long slide with laser sighting. Brand new, we just got him in. Just press the trigger. You got the red dot to show where the bullet's gonna go. You can't miss. Anything else? Raise plasma rifle in the 40 watt range. Hey, it's just what you see, pal. The Uzi 9mm. But you know your weapons, buddy. Any of these is ideal for home defense. So which one will be? All. Good, I might close early today. There's a cooling weighing period on the handguns, but the rifles you can take right now. Hey, you can't do that. Wrong. Beautiful scene. Love it.
Well done.
Absolutely love it. Then obviously the techno. No, we're not doing scenes. We're doing quotes. Yeah, obviously I'll be back, and the whole lead up to that when you have the cop sitting at the desk, just all casual, you're just writing. You know, I'm afraid of Sarah Connor. I was told that she's here. Could you see her, please? No, you can't see her. She's making a statement. Where is she? It may take a while. If you want to wait, there's a bench over there. And he scans. He goes into scan mode. I'll be back, and then he goes, and then boom, he rams through the fucking through the desk. Yeah. Yeah, obviously, I do agree with what you said, Carlos, with Kyle Reese. Pretty much all of his dialogue is memorable as well, and especially when he's explaining to Sarah Connor, like, look, this thing is out there, it will not stop. You know, it doesn't feel pity or pain or remorse or fear and stuff like that. And also in the police station when he's being interrogated, he'll find her. That's what he does. That's all he does. Yeah. Yeah, I mean, in Terminator 2, obviously, you got, Hasta La Vista Baby, which is great. Yeah, Dr. Silverman has great moments there as well. Yeah, that's probably a few of my favorite quotes. I could obviously go on and on, but yeah, I got to throw one more in there. And James did mention it earlier when the dog is barking on the phone. Hey, what's wrong with Wolfie? I can hear him barking. Your foster parents are dead. I do like that bit as well. Yeah. So yeah, before we go on to favorite scenes, we do have a few of the rankings coming in from some people. Let's take a look at some rankings. Let's see, Leo was here first. Yeah. Leo said, I think T2 is objectively a better movie, but I prefer the original. Then I put Sarah Connor Chronicles.
Kind of a bit like...
Yeah. Then Salvation, then Dark Fate, then number 3, and last, Genesis last. Yeah. Oh, this is the same. Oh no, this is tweaked.
Yeah, he's just he's spelling answer.
Corrected. Yeah. Professor Macabre says Terminator 2 at number 1, Terminator 1 at number 2. Obviously, those are going to be the obvious ones. Yeah. And they never made any other Terminator movies because they melted the chip and stopped Judgment Day. So there's no sequels beyond the second one for the Professor. Which I wish.
I mean, he's not wrong, really.
Yeah.
Yeah. Fair point.
And Andy Makes Star Wars says the worst is Dark Rap or Dark Shite. Genesis, Rise, Salvation, T2, and T1. Oh, so T1 is the original, the best for Andy. Okay. I think, those are rankings so far. We do have a comment on the Dick Miller scene there that I just reenacted. Working in the gun shop, Dick Miller is always a character I always like, even though he's only in for like 2 minutes. Yeah, but he's memorable. He's memorable.
Yeah.
The line from T2 always makes me laugh when they say how many police are outside, and John says, well, all of them, I think. Yeah, I do like that bit as well. And then Arnie goes out, hey, wait, you swore. Trust me. And he just, trust me, he just gives him that look. Yeah. Scene in the first movie, Carl says this is all gone when they're in the car park. True. Yeah, he says everything you see all around you is all gone. Yeah. Favorite scenes? I think, James, you covered a few of them in the answers for the quote as well.
Yeah, I think I probably covered them, mate. To be fair, I always like the interrogation scenes in T2. anyone not wearing 2 million sunblock's gonna have a really bad day.
Yeah.
And the escape sequence as well, when she gets the syringe full of bleach and she's like, I believe it, I'll do it, so let me out. And then when he's
There's
he's
215 bones in the human body. That's one. That's another badass line. Yeah.
Right.
Absolutely. And then, like I said, just when Silverman sees Robert Patrick melt through the door, and he's just like, oh shit, she weren't lying.
She was right all along. Yeah.
Yeah. I'm just going to end up quoting most of T2 here, but when she pulls the cover off the gun store in the desert, I always thought that was ace when I was a kid. I don't necessarily know that I want it full of guns, but I always wanted a secret thing like that. I could just pull a hatch back and just have a secret room.
Yeah, and Arnie picks up the minigun. He gives a little smile. It's definitely you. Yeah.
But yeah. So too many to mention.
Carlos, I think we're going to have a few crossing over. I think Carlos has a few scenes that I love as my favorite as well.
The first one, undisputedly, it's got to be the nightclub scene in Terminator 1.
I had that. Yeah.
Just the way the slow motion, it just like. Having said that, the scene before that, when he walks past the bouncer and he just like, without even turning over his shoulder, he just crushes his fingers.
That guy didn't pay. Yeah.
Yeah, which is quite funny actually, because it's Arnie, we could laugh at it and believe it. So yeah, that sort of that first scene where he points that sort of laser gun at Sarah Connor. It's one of my favourite movie scenes. It's definitely in my top 10.
Yeah.
I would say just 3 standoff great scenes for me. Terminator 2, where he's walking in that hallway again. You don't know if he's a good guy or bad guy. Just the whole setup to that was just superbly made. And I say third.
The rose is in the box. Yeah, it's great.
Yeah, again, it was a little bit slow motion.
Guns N' Roses. Yeah.
Very similar. Yeah, very similar to what he did in the first movie, but not as slow. I say the third favorite scene, just probably edging out the truck scene over the bridge, which is a fantastic scene. Edward Furlong, the way he just looks up at that truck that lands.
That whole chase scene there. Yeah, it's fantastic. Yeah.
I've got to say the cop scene when he just takes out the whole police station. The bit that made me laugh is when they said they tried to sort of say to Sarah Connor, "Oh, we've got 20
what you say. Yeah.
We've got 20 cops here. You should feel safe." And then moments later, he just like takes them all out.
Yeah.
3 great scenes, and like James says, there's just many. There's many.
Definitely. Yeah, there are many. There are many, but the tech noir scene is in there for me. I mean, that whole build up, the song, you got me burning. Great. And then it goes in slow motion. She knocks over a bottle. She has to duck down. That's the only reason she wasn't terminated right there and then, is because she was ducking down as he walked by. That's brilliant filmmaking. Everything goes slow motion. Then he finally targets her. He pulls out the 45 long sight while they're sighting. And then obviously see Kyle Reese coming with the shotgun and stuff, and all goes in slow motion. Yeah. The music, the club music fades out, and you got the soundtrack kicking in from Brad Fidel. Yeah, great, just great. And then obviously that whole chase scene afterwards is great. Yeah, T2 definitely the bike chase and through the sewers, I guess, of LA, of downtown LA there. The whole bike and truck bit, and Arnie with his little Winchester, that he sort of does that cool move where he spins it when he reloads it, when he cocks it. That's fantastic. Yeah, that whole pretty much the whole bit from like what you said, Carlos, when they meet up in the mall right up until the end of that chase. That's like a whole big action scene. Doesn't really let up at any point during that bit, or well, the whole film doesn't really let up, but that bit in particular, it's like one of the best action scenes I've ever seen. Part of the reason why it is my favorite action film of all time is T2. But yeah, no, it just doesn't let up. And then probably my all-time favorite scene's got to be the ending of T2. again, because it just really gets me emotionally, and especially after you sat through the entire 2 hours and 30 odd minutes if you watch the extended cut. You watch that whole journey. You watched Arnie become a little bit more human throughout the film, and then at the end he says, he finally said, "I know now why you cry, but it is something I can never do. I cannot self-terminate. You must lure me into the steel." And then obviously he goes down. You hear a very sad rendition of the Terminator theme, da 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 da, and it gives a thumbs up. Yeah, brilliant. And then obviously, as far as I'm concerned, that's the end of the franchise. That's the end of the series. There's no sequels after that. But that's wishful thinking. But yeah, no, those are some of my favorite bits, and I do think we covered everything we had to discuss on this series. Other than what is the future of this franchise? Is there any future? I think we did allude to it earlier. As long as it's still a cash cow, they are probably going to still attempt to do another Terminator property in the future. But do you see a future film even coming remotely close to like T1 or T2 or future of the franchise, James?
I hope there isn't one. I genuinely hope and pray that there isn't one, because as much as I said that I enjoyed Dark Fate, I can appreciate the damage it did to the franchise as well. And the same with all of the sequels. Really, it should have ended with the second one, because the second one told the story, did what it needed to do. You could even argue, really, it doesn't need the second one, but who'd want to live in a world where T2 doesn't exist? But those two films are spot on. I just think, while ever Arnie's alive, they're always going to want to try and bring him back in some way or another, and he's too old now to do it. He's nearly 80, and I think they just need to let it die. If we get 20, 30 years down the line, when we're all old men, and they decide that they want to reboot it, completely, and there's it's its own new thing, then fair enough. How many films of the 30s and 40s have been rebooted in the 70s, 80s, 90s, or whatever? I can maybe see that sort of working. But yeah, truthfully, I can't see that they could do any good at this point by going back to it. So I hope it's done.
Yeah, I think Arnie is truly terminated for me in appearing in any Terminator movies. I wouldn't want to see him. I think he's too old. But I agree with what James has said. I think there's somebody out there that could probably offer him enough cash for him to appear in one.
Oh yeah.
I wouldn't want to see another Terminator movie with Arnie in it, because I think it kind of destroys somewhat of his movie legacy in the Terminator franchise. If you was to say to me, if they were going to do a Terminator movie tomorrow, who would I want to see? I could probably only see one actor probably doing it. It might be an unpopular opinion. I would have to say The Rock, but not only as like Arnie was in the original Terminator movie, with not him speaking, in that sort of tone, where it's kind of just him playing the cyborg assassin. I think that might work. That might bring people back to possibly having any interest. Again, you're going to have a big name director to do it, and probably a very strong, maybe a female lead, and probably a strong lead playing Reese as well. But other than that, I probably wouldn't be interested.
Yeah, weren't they saying like John Cena was like up for the T800 role for like future films, which I'm not really seeing him in.
No.
I could maybe buy Batista doing it. Similar sort.
No, I think I'd rather John Cena than no.
At least Cena has like the jawline of like Arnie a little bit.
I think.
Yeah, I suppose he does. Yeah, I just really like Batista in James Bond. I thought he was the best thing about.
He was great in Spectre. Yeah, true.
I think Batista's lost so much size. Again, I'm just coming up with the angle of, you know, a kind of a very adult Terminator movie with the violent sort of slasher tone. That's kind of how I'd want to do it, because we've had the kind of family orientated entertainment movies. We've had them since, well, the third movie onwards. So I think it needs to go back to the beginning. That's what they do with most movies. But that, yeah. And
Yeah,
yourself, Jeff?
as for me, absolutely agree with what you guys said. I mean, honestly, I just hope they will not make another one after the big disappointment for me. That was Darkseid. I really hope the franchise is done and dusted. Again, probably it won't be. There's probably still money to be made from producers and studios on this property. They will probably give it another shot someday. I'll probably give it a pass, especially if it doesn't have Arnold, because that was the thing that turned me off in Salvation in the first place. I didn't see it for many years because Arnold wasn't in it. But also, even if Arnold is in a next Terminator film, again, I probably will not be as interested anymore, especially after the last one.
Yeah.
Plus, yeah, he is now old and maybe even obsolete this time around. You could say. As much as I love Arnie, I mean, I love the guy to death, don't get me wrong. Not as much as Sly, but that's my preference. But no, I mean, yeah, there's no future for me in this franchise. No sequels for this franchise anymore.
What's your thoughts on, like they've done the AI and the deep faking thing with, like they did it with Peter Cushing in Star Wars, and Harrison Ford, de-aged himself, didn't he, in the first half of Indiana Jones 5?
Yeah, well, even Arnie for Genesis was de-aged and Dark
Fate
began.
Yeah.
If Arnie gave his sign-off, the rights to his likeness and his voice, could you buy into it then?
I'm not the biggest CGI fan, but I must admit they did a good job of de-aging him for those two films. But
Yeah.
I don't think I would want to watch a full film with a CGI Arnold.
Yeah.
No, doesn't sit right with me. No.
The thought propped into my head as you were talking. I was just sort of wondering, because he's so iconic with that character, isn't he? That
yeah. I mean, for video games, sure. I mean, actually, as a matter of fact, I've been playing the Terminator Resistance video game again on PS5, which came out the same year as Dark Fate, and that's the much better Terminator thing that came out that year, in my opinion. For video games, I would say sure, have Arnie's likeness and voice and stuff, and that would be great, but not really a full film with a CGI Arnie. That wouldn't really sit right with me. As cool as they would make it, or even if the technology keeps growing, I don't know. It would just feel too artificial, for me. Yeah. So let's get through the last of the comments, I guess. And
I think,
any final thoughts, Carlos, James?
I think we'd probably end it on maybe a few comments and maybe how us guys would sum up the Terminator movie franchise and what it means to us and to cinema. I think we'll just leave that on there. Yeah.
Just get through a few more comments. Professor Macabre actually has a very good point here. You think James Cameron purposely sabotaged the Terminator sequel so that he could get the rights back on the cheap?
I love that one. That's a great comment.
That wouldn't be raising the bar, would it?
Saying about the Sarah Connor Chronicles that it was okay. The frustrating part is the series ends on a damn cliffhanger that will never be resolved. Well, same as some of the sequels. Seems to be a thing with this series, yeah. Leo does like the Sarah Connor Chronicles. It's a good alternate timeline that deviates after T2. Yeah, I really have to give that another watch. It's been so long. Who do you think would win in a battle, the Terminator or RoboCop? Well, there was that old video game, wasn't it, Terminator versus RoboCop? But
I think the Terminator.
I think
Terminator
would.
I've got to say Arnie, Terminator.
Yeah.
As long as Arnie's playing Terminator.
If you use the right weapon on RoboCop, he's still dead. So yeah, I'll probably say Terminator. Who would you prefer to have as a bodyguard in the whole Terminator franchise? Mine would be the T-1000, But having said that, the TX could also be my bodyguard and try to program her as my girlfriend. Wow. So she would be a sex bot for Yam Yam as well. I don't. I would just have Arnie protecting me. Just have the protector from T2.
Yeah.
Who sent you? You did. 35 years from now, you reprogram me to be a protector here this time. Oh wait, we already had this. This is where the rankings came in. Oh yeah, this is the last one I pulled out. Also, I don't think I've seen a film with a laser-sighted gun in it that I don't like on some level. Yeah, I mean Cobra, he has laser sight on the weapon. Yeah, laser sights are cool. Still a bit sad that a local businessman was going to open a replica of the Tech Noir nightclub, but ran out of money. Well, that would have been cool. I would definitely visit that nightclub.
Yeah.
I would. And yeah, this is the last comment. I really like Cameron, but always find it funny. He admitted to someone that he ripped off Harlan Ellison, but the person he was talking to was Harlan Ellison's friend. Oh yeah, that's why they sort of added that at the end of the credits for T1, didn't they? Because it was inspired by, yeah, true. So you think also the what the Terminator franchise means to us?
Yeah.
Okay, James, go ahead.
So I suppose to me, it's one of my favorite action franchises. It's a staple of modern cinema, really, isn't it? There's an argument to be made for Arnie as the T-800 on a Mount Rushmore of iconic film characters of the last sort of 50 years. I think those first two films and in a broader sense as well, James Cameron's work has really helped shape what modern blockbusters look like. And that they're used as the mold, as the template on a personal level. As I said at the start, that watching T2 in particular takes me always back to a time I cherish, when I'd spend Saturday afternoons and evenings watching films I should not have been watching at a young age with my dad, and sort of been, cuddled up on the sofa with him and my sister watching, the likes of this and Lethal Weapon and Batman Returns and Indiana Jones and whatever else. So it's, I suppose, like any work of art, really, isn't it? It can evoke memories and times and emotions in you, and yeah, especially that last sort of 20 minutes of T2 takes me right back to to that moment in time, sort of thing. So that's, I suppose, what it means to me personally.
Awesome.
Yeah, I mean, like with what James said, the Terminator franchise. I mean, the first two movies are classics for me. I could watch the third and the fourth one, but not the last two. So, I mean, 4 out of 6 is not bad. But, those first two movies are just instant classics. They're so rewatchable. They're movies that kind of set the career of James Cameron and Arnold Schwarzenegger to worldwide stardom. I mean, as a director, James Cameron, just became a director who only sort of made blockbusters, really. And Arnie, more recognisable after the first movie, but by the time he made the second movie, he was the biggest action star worldwide. Linda Hamilton gained sort of recognition as a pretty popular, kind of underrated actress. I mean, other than just the Terminator movies, she's quite
Dante
capable.
Speak, fantastic.
Yeah, I mean, she's a lot. Even Michael Biehn as well. I mean, so again, what James says, T2 raised the bar in how action movies were made, and we shouldn't also forget that Terminator 2 actually won 4 Academy Awards.
It did, yeah. Best special effects, best editing, stuff like that, but still,
best in sound and makeup, which, I mean, that's a major feat, really, for an action movie to actually get 4. I mean, normally you might get just the odd 1 or 2. So that's how much T2 and James Cameron, his vision really set the bar with action movies that came after. So just a great franchise in in cinema history, especially the first two movies. Like I say, I mean, I enjoyed the third one. The fourth one's watchable, but I could have kind of excused the last two. I mean, there's what franchise or movie series, there isn't one or two sort of duff ones. But yeah, I mean, again, with what you guys said, I mean, I hope it's kind of buried and it's terminated, that we don't see any more, because there's that kind of vision that if it comes back again, it would just be really laughable, especially after the last one for me. But yeah, great movie series that really did set the bar in action movies.
Yeah, as for me, I can only second that. I mean, the first two are immortal classics. The first one and the second one, they're both 10 out of 10 perfect films for me. Absolutely. I mean, the second one is my favorite action film of all time. It really put the bar so high for action films. And there's a lot of action films that come close, but none of it has sort of got on that level or has gone past it for me in terms of action films. Then, of course, you do have the disappointing, sequels after the second one. One more enjoyable than the other, admittedly. But those first two alone, they have earned their place in cinematic legacy. I would say cinematic history. The first two are never to be replicated for me, never to be surpassed. It made careers out of Arnold, Linda Hamilton. Admittedly, I mean, she hasn't done many blockbuster films, but like I said, like stuff like Dante's Peak, I think that film's fantastic with her and Pierce Brosnan in it. James Cameron, obviously, he went on to much bigger things, and so even with T2, he went much bigger than he was already than he was doing with the first one. He has come a long way since Piranha 2, that's for sure. Obviously doing The Abyss and True Lies and stuff, and Titanic, and big blockbusters. So yeah, that's what it means to me. I mean, the first two are some of my favorite films of all time, and the second one probably is one of my favorite films of all time. Definitely favorite action film of all time. So yeah, I would say that's about it for this one, isn't it, guys?
Yeah.
So the Talking Movies franchise, really, live stream series will be back, pun intended. We would like to say many thanks to James, JT the Movies, for joining us on this evening, and it's been an absolute pleasure.
Yeah,
and of course we do send our well wishes to Dan. Sadly, he couldn't join us, but hope you're watching, Dan. Hope we did good for you. Hope we did you proud.
Absolutely, mate. Hope I'll catch you.
Yeah, definitely. And obviously, many thanks to Carlos, as always, for joining as well. We do have a few more comments coming, so let's quickly go through them before we sign off. This one was funny. Who would win out of The Predator versus Kevin from Home Alone? Now, I love Home Alone. I love Kevin McAllister, but I think he's toast when he comes face to face with the Predator. But that's my opinion.
We'll get ripped apart.
Yeah.
Unless the Predator is played by Joe Pesci.
Yeah, well,
can you imagine that? I always thought it was funny during one of the making ofs when Arnie says he's so good looking they have to tone down his looks with special effects makeup. Yeah, he's sitting there, he's getting the robot prosthetics applied to him. He's like, every movie they have to turn down my pretty face and stuff like that. Yeah.
You can never tell whether he's been sarcastic or not, can you? I think that's part of the charm.
True. And we have some people signing off. Yeah, great stream. Thank you so much, Andrew. Thanks for joining us. Good night, Bob, and good night to all. We will be back. Hasta la vista, baby. Adios. Signing off.
We'll be back in December.
In December, yes, for another great episode. So thanks for watching, guys. See you all later. Take care.